There we go. All right, we're live. Welcome back to the weekly show, everybody. We've got a full house today. So, welcome to the Sage on Stage. I realised I should have had a bit of a welcoming kind of prepared. We've got a good old crowd here today to start us off. The idea of the show is that we just chat about important ideas, and the idea is almost less about those ideas and more about how do we go about discussing them. As Taylor, who's here in this show, was giving me some feedback just a moment ago that she feels that when I when we disagree with one another, she feels I don't grant anything and am a bit, I don't know, how would you put it, Taylor? I would summarize what you were saying, that you can say I could be a bit pig-headed sometimes in a disagreement. That's not the words you use, but that's what I took it to mean. Is that fair to say, do you think? She might have stepped away. But that's the gist or the intent for doing this, and that is that we can develop our skills at debating and discussing ideas. So I've got a bit of a structure for today's show, but I thought we'd start with a bit of a welcome and what's on your mind, and then I'll run by you or what the structure is, which we might do some fast rounds, so some quick 5-minute rounds of fun, quick debates, just to get into the practice, give one another feedback. And I think also specifically, you don't need to necessarily agree with the point in order to practice the skill of presenting it. And then we'll explore a bit about, or talk a bit about current events if we want to. And hopefully along the way, when somebody's got a real topic they care about, we can have some people step up and argue in favour of something they care deeply about, and we can watch and have Sage judge and moderate a debate. So that's the overall plan. How's everybody doing this morning, or for most of you, I guess it's this evening?
I have mold poisoning, so I'm not feeling good.
Oh, goodness. Do you know which kind of mold?
My dumbass, I ate some spaghetti sauce that was old in the back of the fridge. Ooh. And I guess in the blindness of trying not to burn things and cooking, I just dumped it in the dish, and I didn't realize it was covered in all these patches of green mold in the jar. So, oops.
Wow. So even cooking it didn't get rid of it?
I guess not. Wow. I woke up and the whole room was spinning. So I guess it turned into some kind of hallucinogenic or something, because I even still, my vertigo is going crazy. So
that is crazy scary. Okay. I did not know you could get hallucinogenic pasta sauce.
Well, I'm alive. It only took about half a day to get off the bed, so.
Goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. You've been going through it lately. Right. It's an interesting start. Hallucinogenic pasta sauce. Anybody else accidentally dosed themselves with hallucinogens? Or had friends do it? I think, depending on which circles you hang out with, that might be more this group's speed.
It wasn't an accident, but just a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah. I did that when I was first starting to build Sage, actually. I was like, I've heard about this microdosing thing. Only problem I had with setting myself up for microdosing is I don't really know what a macro dose is, so I don't know how to micro it. So I was like taking bits and sitting there and learning Python, and then I remember just going, maybe I'm not taking enough, and then just nudged it a bit far one day when eventually I was like, oh, the writing is moving. It makes it much harder to code if the lines move. And realised I nudged a little bit past the micro.
Oh, yeah. I had a celebration for the anniversary of my birth, and a bunch of us, we did shooting in the morning, and then we went out on a pontoon boat and macro dosed on everything.
Macro dose on everything. Fantastic. All right, so let's get going with the debate. Unless anybody else got anything. What's on the front of your mind? Actually, Scotsman, you were going to say something. I saw you unmute before we get into some practice rounds.
No, I wasn't. Sorry, I was just messing with my mute button.
Oh, good. So I've got some test topics that we can do to start off with, where what I think is super fast rounds of debate. So the idea being we'll pick two people. Two people can volunteer, and you can pick a side. I would, in fact, encourage picking sides that you don't agree with necessarily, so you can sort of practice formulating strong arguments even against them. Sometimes it's actually fun to not tell people until you finish the debate, and then you get a ruling from the audience where we go, here's what was good, here's what was bad, here's who we think won, and then find out, hey, do you really agree with that? Not asking you to lie, but to sort of explore what steel manning another view would be like. Where I thought we'd do some timed fast rounds so we can get into the habit of just disagreeing well, give one another feedback. So some topics we've got here are, one I think is interesting is the MMR vaccine safe? So that's coming partly from what Renee sent me, that it's interesting that, RFK is generally anti-vaccines, but also clearly says to people, go and get the MMR vaccine, measles will kill you, it's a bad disease. So he's sort of at odds with a lot of the people who follow him as, what do you call them? You know what I'm trying to say, anti-vaxxers. There's another one that's interesting because I think it cuts to the middle of a topic we regularly discuss here, which is Hamas must fully disarm before any Palestinian state is possible, because just, 3 days ago now, Netanyahu's rejected Trump's peace deal because my understanding is Trump didn't ask for that complete disarmament, whereas Bibi's like, well, I'm not chatting to them until they agree to that, which, I won't get my thoughts into it. Actually, I will. I think that's just because he doesn't want to have a peace talk. And go on.
I mean, that's just more of the tail wagging the dog. You know what I mean? Like, historically, we had leverage over Israel to be able to force concessions like this. So it's just more symptomatic of that. The Iranian ceasefire ran out tonight at midnight, 12 p.m. Eastern time, a.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be interesting what's going to happen next in that region.
It really will. Yeah. And that's why I got a bit bored with the old does God exist and is the Bible true debate. But I'm now getting a bit addicted to that debate again. Probably also why you've sensed in me, Taylor, a bit of what is Red Cloud puts it in a quite fun way, but periodically obstreperous or something, I think he says. But because I've started caring about it again, I've gone from being able to have a more dispassionate debate to being a little bit more like, no, because I struggle with sort of the bigger picture of what to me I think it means to believe in the Bible, can validate that, 1,000-year-old blood debt. Then there's another interesting one here is a suggested topic. AI companies should be legally liable for harms their models cause, I think is an interesting topic. So there's constant cases, like there's one where Anthropic is boasting, it seems, we accidentally hacked Hugging Face, who does all of the AI tests. And it seems that at least so far, Hugging Face and Anthropic and OpenAI are all like, how funny is that? But it's going to become interesting as more and more people use those tools in a destructive way. Who bears the responsibility? Is it the person running the agent that went rogue? Is it the person running the agent and we can't prove whether it went rogue with or without their knowledge? Or should Anthropic be, the large AI companies be held accountable for that? And then this one is a good one. ICE detention without trial is unconstitutional regardless of immigration status, which I think is another one. So what I'd like is to take, those are just some smatterings of topics that are on the table. But what I want to do for now is a fast round. So what I'd suggest is if there's a topic you really want to argue, put it in the chat and we'll come back to it for a longer round later. Whereas for now, we just want to do some super quick rounds that I'll time. And for that, I would say you're almost better picking a topic you don't care too much about, because when we get to that end of that round, you'll be like, okay, great, let's hear it. So thoughts? Who wants to have a go? Not all at once. We need to form an orderly queue here. Maintain some decorum. Flat Earth. Sunflower wants to argue flat Earth. So we could have some takers for or against that. You're a non-flat earther, Sunflower, right? So I think, you could argue for or against. I think arguing for is funnier if you're against.
Or the domestication of the wolves and the ravens, right? I thought that was the first topic.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So perfect storm. What's your position on the wolves and the ravens thing? Is it a question of like, are the
my
wolves
position
domesticating
is
ravens?
that animals are more conscious and sentient than we think, and therefore corvids are exceptionally more intelligent than us. And even there, they can domesticate wolves just like we can domesticate dogs, which shows that they are on a very high level of cognition.
Great.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah. I mean, they do have a high level of cognition, but the statement of they're smarter than us, how do you leap to that?
Well, for instance, I mean, it depends on what you evaluate as intelligent and smart, but to me, it's we destroy nature more than anything, while they're actually more in balance with nature. So they're not fucking shit up the way that we do, and we have the potential to like do better with nature in the world, and we decide to fuck shit up. Whereas they use their potential to do actually good shit.
I mean, you could argue that we do make a mess of things, but I mean, the statement that because they're more in tune with nature, they are more intelligent than us. That's the argument.
No, it's more that they when they learn and they adapt something, they apply it more effectively than humans because we apply it selfishly.
So the selfish gene, I think there's a theory behind that, and basically how those types of genes actually helped with the development of our species. You know, nothing's perfect, but to claim that a corvid is smarter than us, I would say a monkey, an ape, like a simian, is smarter than a corvid.
And I
They
wouldn't
could
be
they could
surprised about corvids being smarter than us. I'm not going to say all animals are, but definitely corvids deserve the recognition of potentially being smarter than us. We can't say for sure, I guess, but I mean they're in the tops. They're a good candidate for that.
because of tool use and things like that, right? And what you brought up, the domestication of wolves, right?
Yes, and even like that, they hunt together. Like basically, corvids find the prey, wolves go and eat the prey, but they leave parts of the prey for the corvids so that they can eat too. It's really a nice relationship they got there, and they play together. They have games, they play tag, etc.
Orcas used to do that with whaling ships. You know that, like heading out in the Pacific, they would go flap their tail, and whalers would go run, and the orcas would lead them to packs of whales. And the orcas got exactly what you said, scraps and everything else from the butchering process.
Yes, I believe a lot of marine animals are exceptionally smart too, and like very sentient, especially octopi.
So, in your opinion, what's the smartest animal on Earth? Or intelligent, I think that's the word you used.
It might actually be the ant.
The ant. What makes the ant the smartest creature on the planet?
I mean, a lot of dynamics. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the whole dynamics of why ants are like basically a direct reflection of our society. But if it's not ants, it would be probably octopi because of their nervous system.
So, the direct reflection of ant society. So they have a queen, and they have a bunch of females doing everything, and then dudes sit out in the wilderness and get like fucked like one time in their life. Is that like how you like? Is that the reflection of our society?
More like the functions of their colonies. They have social hangouts, trade depots, all sorts of functionalities. It's basically working like a society and a city, even though it's more hive mind based and individual based. I mean, there are differences, but it remains that they also domesticate other insects and so on. They form mega colonies. They have diplomacy. Very complex stuff going on in ant colonies.
There's a fungus that invades the brain of an ant and takes control of them. So would that make the fungus the smartest creature on the planet?
I mean, a fungus is not an animal.
That's
Like
a
you asked,
creature.
the smartest animal, not the smartest creature. If you want the smartest creature on the planet, it would probably be the tree because a tree is technically 100% brain.
Hold on a tree is a 100% braid.
In technicality, it's more like the way that their cells work for trees and plants. The cell is capable of all functions of all types of cells, and they can respecialize. So basically, if a tree wants to specialize all their cells into brain activity, they can.
Where is the braid of a tree? Is it just the entire structure of a tree?
I mean, I'm using brain more like as a
1 inch
term
ago.
for understanding here. They don't have a literal brain, but they have like the functions of what our brain can do, their cells can do.
Okay. So I think that these creatures that you speak of, if the definition of intelligence is harmony with nature, I think you have an argument. But I don't think that's the definition of intelligence. I think it's utilizing nature. And with intelligence, there takes a lot of intelligence needed to see the damage we do as well. But I don't think ants and trees are more intelligent than us, even in the utilization of nature aspect of things.
Why would we be the magical, most intelligent ones when there are dynamics that are much more different and metrics that are also different? Because we rely
Okay.
on technological advancement while they rely on biological advancement. And that's another huge difference in dynamics. And to say
Final
that like we're
thoughts?
smarter just because we got technology would be pretty fallacious.
Okay, final thought. Do you want to go first, or final thought, or was that yours?
So what it's asked you for a debt here is it wants you to answer this debt. Define intelligence so harmony with nature makes us smarter than animals, which is a question that it's sort of rephrasing of a question that Rini answered. So if you can answer that, you'll gain a lot of ground here. I don't know if people are following along on the viz, but it's decided that's a huge owed debt that you have.
Okay, well, intelligence is more like defined as the ability to acquire and to apply new skills and knowledge. And given that, like the animals in the animal kingdom, which are also less specialized, they have more ability to acquire and apply information, and they apply it also more correctly because it's in harmony with nature as well. So it directly affects the metric of the actual definition of intelligence, which is the ability to
Where's
acquire
study
and to apply information.
We got it. I don't know if you have a citation or whatever, but I'd be interested to hear.
Oh no, we're not at that point of debate yet. So with nature, right? You say the ability to acquire intelligence, and I agree with those aspects of your definition. But the thing is, it's this: when you make the claim that an ant, an animal is more intelligent than us, we do all of those things at a maximum level compared to them. You say there's other dynamics involved, but most of those.
Incorrect.
Most
Sorry
of
Right,
for
I'm going to wrap up here. We don't want to get back into the debate.
what I
but
want to call as
But
incorrect.
really quick, though, most of those have to do with your definition of intelligence, which is a creature that's within harmony of nature.
No, not necessarily, because like I was saying, it's how they information and skills are applied. So we apply it with technology. So you can say that we have it maximally, but it's through technology, not through our biological means. Whereas an ant does this, and even 10 times more than any of our machines biologically. So that's a big difference.
Okay. All right. So we can wrap that there. Oh, it did hand the win with that last bit. It handed that over to at least the live board has. Can we please have a judgment on that debate about animal intelligence, please, Sage? And what do the people think? What do the audience think? How did that go? Fairly chill topic to start with. I think for me, I think that question, and this is for so many debates I hear, they often come down to how we define something, and that often needs to be done, I think, earlier on, where that definition of intelligence unlocked a lot, and we could have benefited from getting there sooner, I think. Others' thoughts?
If you it's like an IQ test or something, then obviously they're gonna fail. I think like God has blessed different species with different abilities. Like plants obviously are better than us at using light for energy. We don't even have that ability. And then we have the Broca's area, which is unique to our brain, than the chimpanzees or monkeys or whatever, which allows us to talk. And so and dogs are better at smelling things than we are. I mean, there's different levels of intelligence, but in terms of like logic and reasoning, we're obviously going to be superior. Even if they had this ability, like they don't have any ability to communicate it, so it's rendered useless. But anyway,
these species that have resonating logic. I would
Just let
argue that
Taylor finish first. What was the last thing you were saying, Taylor? And then we'll go to you, Perfect Storm.
it's just a subjective based on your metric and standard of intelligence, which is it could be down to
Yeah, I think I very much agree with that, which is like, I certainly think corvids are showing a high level where they've gone from where we see other things using tools. This is now using another animal as a tool, which is sort of a next step. But like you said, it's always going to be subjective. If I consider that intelligent, then I'll count it and then I'll go, oh, look smart. Whereas if I don't, I won't, and they'll look dumb. Yeah. Go on. What were you saying, Perfect Storm?
Yeah, that's what is kind of what I wanted to say. If you judge the intelligence of a fish by its ability to climb a tree, of course, it might not strike as so intelligent. So you're going to have to at least adjust the scope to what the fish is capable of and how it applies it and how it learns. So a fish definitely doesn't learn that much, but it definitely applies its information pretty well. But it doesn't have the ability to learn and memorize too well compared to other species. So when you compare like other species and all their different abilities, it's where do they excel at and how do they excel at it as well. So instead of like using this one compartmentalization that like which other species might not apply to or need, we can't just judge intelligence by that. So we have to adjust the metric based on the species as well.
Well, then how do you do interspecies intelligence metrics? If depending on the species will depend on the test.
I go by judging the overall nervous system effectiveness. So that's why octopus go into the highest rank, because their nervous system is basically flawless with a 9 brain system. Whereas we have trouble coordinating 4 limbs, they can coordinate 8 limbs perfectly without issue. That's
our coordination
that's one of the metrics.
And then what do you choose?
But yeah, I'm with you. Not sure that just limb coordination would be intelligence, because to me it's much more the ability to spot a pattern and come up with an interesting way to test it.
I agree with that too. I agree with that too. Like I was using an example here. I wasn't like making this is the only metric.
Right.
Well, how would you? Okay, so nervous system effectiveness at doing what? Because if it's effectiveness at communicating what it's thinking, then everything would score pretty much a 0 between species and
what it should be doing and what it's designed to do in the sense that like you have natural selection and like basically the nervous system of a fish can't climb a tree, but we don't care about that. What does the nervous system of a fish though? Can swim and can breathe underwater, etc. So what is it good at and how good is it at it? And how effective is
but
what
it's not hold on though, it's not even, so you have to understand the nervous system of a fish is climbing a tree. We are that product. You're talking about like the other functions and things like that. And I even compared the uses of orcas of humans to get food and hunt and things like that. I think the thing is, if you define intelligence about harmony of nature, you have a wide way to expand it, but I wouldn't accept that as a definition of what I would use as a differentiator for different species.
I'm not using it as a definition. It's like basically one metric over many others. So harmony with nature is one thing. The nervous system is another thing. And how it applies information and learns is another thing, and so on. So it's basically judging how good they are at all these sets that do apply to multi-species and all other species. And within exceptions, well, you have to add the rules for those exceptions.
All right. So what I'm trying to also get us to do though is to pull back, because I think it is an interesting discussion. I don't want to sort of stymie the discussion, but the idea is that we're doing quick rounds here. So much more we're thinking about how that conversation was conducted rather than getting back into the content we're talking about, the sort of structure of it.
I would
So
recommend
go on.
not asking people their thoughts on something because that's going to literally start up the conversation again.
Yes.
Just
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of get it. Yeah, I still welcome the thoughts on that intelligence bit, but also to relate it to then how do we discuss these things? How do we think that discussion went?
I hear you.
Yeah, so we can have a few rounds of it. I think it was good. I think it was a really good start. I think that both sides were pretty clear. I think they engaged well. They were respectful. What were you going to say then, Taylor? Sorry.
Yes, I enjoyed this. Actually, this was
Gonna
very.
disagree, and then the person's going to defend themselves, and then so you're going to just hop. It's just a way to hop back into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good discussion. Thank you
Yeah.
guys for sharing.
Yeah, it's a great starting round. That's fun. All right.
that
Another
was-
fun one. I'll get into some.
Was there a summary for the debate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can we please have a debate judgment summary, Sage? Use your debate judge tool, Sage.
Is she lagging behind?
Or it takes her a while to do it, but she obviously just didn't hear me the first time. We've got a slight issue there on the slower one. So on the main one, though, she's scored that for, actually, she's given that a win for Perfect Storm, who's got most of the points. A plus.
Okay, like we need to I think that there's an issue because it's not even looking at citations, what they're saying is if it's correct or not. How can a Sage incorporate that, or it's just about like if you debate a point, like assertions like that, you're just gonna win if you make better assertions. I'm just curious.
So I can explain the what it's using so far if you'd like. So
Yeah.
I've pulled some schema from some existing systems and turned them into my own schema. So there are the things that it's looking for will include evidence, but it won't be limited to that. She doesn't pass at this stage, nor do I think she should in the future. She doesn't parse, P-A-R-S-E, the quality of any sort of citation or evidence somebody gives. But if somebody says, bang, here's a link, and then talks us through it, that'll absolutely add to their score. The main thing that she's trying to judge is like when we establish this crux, is then the size of your note will be dependent on how salient it is, so how valuable to answering the point this card is. What's written on here will then match the size. So you'll see down tiny ones here are just the word plus or good discussion or something where it's just meta, we're just having a chat, versus these huge ones that should be on the line here showing who's either, so there'll be things like probative important questions that need answering. Like there was a huge one here that Perfect Storm had to answer. So whether you are answering important debt. So if somebody says you need to define intelligence, I define it thus, how do you define it? And in this discussion, people did define it. But if you had one person continually dodge that, giving that definition, and still went on to try to argue that like X was smarter than Y, but wouldn't give you what the definition for smart is, then they will progressively lose more and more points from that. Where here you can see it's fairly even. What we're aiming for is that we end up with a clear winner.
Does Sage ever like hold people to their own accountability or point out hypocrisy? I've never seen Sage point out hypocrisy before.
Yeah, so the goal is more that an interlocutor will do that. So if somebody's demonstrating hypocrisy in the discussion, then the idea is if you call it out. So let's say if we were, what's a good example of hypocrisy? We're talking about free speech and then somebody won't let the other person speak, then if you call it out, then Sage should be able to judge that and go, hey, they're right, you're not letting them speak or something. But she's deliberately designed not to just weigh in and say, hey, you're being a hypocrite, because I don't want her to be an interlocutor.
Can she detect fallacious arguments and non-fallacious ones?
Again, if you call it out. If you say that's a fallacy, then she will judge whether it's a fallacy, but she won't. I'm very deliberately making her so she shouldn't be calling people out proactively because that will turn her into an arguing party where the goal is she's helping us be better at arguing.
Okay, so basically if I call anything like a fallacy arbitrarily, she's going to be able to tell that there was no fallacy there, right?
Yeah, so what it'd do is put one of these notes up here that I call meta or flies, where they aren't probative to the crux itself, but might, in some of these cases, actually develop quite a bit of salience or size. If you point out that somebody has strawmanned you, for example, then what she should be doing, provided it's working today, is read that note that says, hey, you're strawmanning me, go back and check, then come back and grow that note to say, hey, this point, even though it's not on the line, it's not discussing the topic of intelligence or whatever it might be, it is looking at the validity of that person's argument. And if it is a straw man, then this note should grow, my whole side should grow, and their straw man note should shrink and send mass over here.
Yeah, it's good to know, because now moving forward, I'm going to make sure I have to like call people on their stuff more, because I know that Sage isn't going to be the judge for that. That's good to know going forward. Yeah, it'd be nice if we fallacies and stuff. I think that would improve our debate skills too. But I hear what you mean. She doesn't want to be a debating party, so you don't have to.
Probably be a good idea to implement a way for her to detect fallacies without them being called out, so that people can't just arbitrarily call out fallacies for nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to make it, because this is an interesting, fun topic. Why don't we make this the next 5-minute debate? I'll step up for this one. So totally new topic. I'm going to start the timer now and give my opening. I think fallacies, far from being bad reasoning, are actually good reasoning, provided they're used in I was using this wrong before, not inductive. There's inductive, deductive, and whichever the one is that's just guesswork, right? I think they're really good as what are called heuristics. So a fallacy would be a fallacy if I say, I know it's Tuesday because I asked all my friends and they said it's Tuesday. Fallacious, bad reasoning, they could all be lying. But if I say it's probably Tuesday because all my friends said it's Tuesday, that's actually pretty good reasoning.
What is the fallacy in saying the first one?
Argument from popularity. It's saying because all my friends say X, therefore it's true. But we can point at many examples of.
Okay.
Yeah, but for yes, trivial Tuesday, I don't think it's very fallacious. But something like more advanced, maybe it would be yes. Such as
a fallacy is a fallacy regards to the topic, in my view. So if I said, it's immoral to have abortions because all my friends said so, that's an argument from popularity. It's fallacious. But if I say, to me it feels like abortions are immoral because all my friends say so, that I still don't like it as a very strong argument, but I wouldn't say it's a fallacy. I would say the reasoning is poor, but that's because we're using a bad heuristic. But yeah, my general point is that fallacies are actually heuristics and pretty good reasoning tools. Anybody want to argue with me on that?
I don't want to hear you appeal to consensus ever again, Eggshells.
They can be good tools, especially if you're using them like to expose another fallacy or so on, or like delve into hypotheticals and figure out truths, to which where the fallacious thinking will be exposed as wrong and the more clearer thinking will be exposed as correct.
But I think appeal to consensus even can be a good heuristic, right? Where I wouldn't use it to show something's true, but I think there are many times where it's a great heuristic, right? Appeal to consensus on which day of the week it is, whether something's illegal. It's not definitive, but it's good reasoning. If I say, hey, is it legal to trade on information I gained from a closed boardroom meeting? And if 9 out of my 10 friends go, yeah, that sounds like insider trading, and the other one goes, I'm not sure, then it's not proof positive, but it's a good indication that that might be insider trading.
But if you have an epistemic standard that substantiates or justifies the trust that you have in, let's say, X saying X, or the peer review, let's say, because there is something, let's say, being objectively notioned, it's being attempted to falsify and so on, to which like the fallacies would be assessed. So you know that not only the person is claiming this, but they bring you case studies, which allows you to actually see that what they're saying is in fact correct. It wouldn't be fallacious to then listen to them and understand them or trust them when they speak after they've provided.
It would still be a fallacy. To appeal to consensus is a fallacy if you're appealing to the consensus. Oh, majority of people or these people say this, or that could be appeal to authority too if you appeal to authorities on the claim. So
yes,
either way,
what I'm saying is an appeal to authority.
Standard, it wouldn't be as bad.
He's saying it's justified
more appeals than just one.
Well, I'm saying Well, I'm saying it's only a fallacy in my view if you are coming to a sort of therefore conclusion. So if you're saying, whatever, vaccines cause autism because 9 out of my 10 friends think so, then that is a fallacy. Whereas if you say, I think it's possible that vaccines cause autism, why do you think that? Well, 9 out of my 10 friends think that. It's not good reasoning, but I wouldn't put it to the level of fallacy, because a fallacy is dealing with formal logic, which is much more deductive. Whereas for what is it, inductive? No, abductive? I forget. But the one where you're like trying to use guesswork, fallacy is the best way to figure most things out, right?
Deductive.
If I figure out what oil does my car take, asking Toyota is about the best method I could use, but that's an appeal to authority.
No, we're talking about making logical arguments, not just figuring out what oil your Toyota uses.
But could I make a logical argument that my Toyota use, 20 W40, and somebody says, no, I've called Toyota, and Toyota says use 20 W50?
Well, that would be more of an appeal to authority, first of all, rather than appeal to consensus.
Yeah, it'd be like an appeal to authority.
But if you're saying that something in nature is true because people said so, and people have been wrong many times, that's not really. Now I understand, like, okay, calling and asking Toyota, they're the authority figure. They made Toyota, and so they can give us reasoning. But nobody made nature here that we're talking to. They're giving their
every form of reasoning will depend. At the end of the day, every form of reasoning will depend on actual dynamics of using axioms and maybe accepting certain assumptions and so on and appealing to something. So that is why you need to solve the fallacy problem with epistemology, and that's where you follow more strict laws into how you come to the conclusion without it being necessarily fallacious, because you're following an epistemic standard instead of just appealing to one specific thing or information.
Yeah, so Sage has got exactly the distinction I'm making here. He's talking probability, she's talking proof. And that's the thing. Where I think a fallacy is if you say, I know the best oil for my car is definitely 20W40 because Toyota says so. That, as much as it seems like good reasoning, is a fallacy, because it's possible Toyota are wrong about the best oil for their car, or they give a generalized answer for the entirety of their users, whereas people in a hot country like Australia benefit from a different viscosity of oil or something. I don't know. I don't know much about oil. I don't know why I picked it. So I'm saying the difference isn't how you do your reasoning. It's whether you reach a probabilistic conclusion about, hey, this is a good indication that that's probably a good fuel to use, versus an absolute conclusion, this is definitely the right fuel. Do you see that? That's the distinction I'm trying to make, Taylor.
What about the decision? Like, you then choose to put that oil in your car. You're saying, yeah, it's probably a good idea, but you sort of confirm it. You're making a concrete decision. Does that make it different?
Depends if I were to, yeah, that's a good question. I don't think it does. I think I could still say, oh, I blunder along making messy judgments.
What if I told you Toyota wants you to bring your car back to pay for the repair? And so, some people have this idea like that, things intentionally lower the lifespan, so you'll have to go back and give them more money. So I would appeal to the best, unless it's like something that you're referencing, like what does the manual say? Like if you're just saying the best brand of oil, then you can just look up studies on from a non-biased third party. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. If Toyota is the manufacturer of the car, then definitely reference them on parts and stuff. But it could be subjective. It could be something you should look into, a study.
Yeah. Awesome. Good, robust discussion to get us started. We've had the first one turned into 2 different cruxes. This one's been interesting. So do corvids, we've had the one on, do corvids and other animals show intelligence comparable but beyond humans? And then we're having a discussion about what intelligence really is. Yeah, good.
Does Sage
All right.
have the history of conversations in here?
Say again?
Does Sage have the history of conversations in here?
Yes, yeah.
was gonna ask you before we move on to another topic. Can she look up unfinished discussions? Like, which ones does she think needs to be touched on? Which previous discussions? Can she do that?
Not really. Like what you can do is ask her about, what do I think? I've got semantic search, I think, up to a day ago, but that will only generally be, hey, send, where, and I haven't tested it, so I can't say it works, but you should be able to, like tomorrow, be able to say to Sage, hey, can you tell me what happened in that debate yesterday about intelligence of corvids? And she should be able to go back through, find the word corvid, find the bounds of that debate, snip it out, send it to you and say, and give feedback in whatever framing you've asked for. But she doesn't really sort of tag things as this is a finished discussion versus this is not. So that wouldn't be enough information for her to say, oh yeah, here's this unfinished debate. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's pick another topic while I try to get the what do we think about the oh, hang on, you had one as well, didn't you? What have we got here? So Ravens, DI. Oh, that's right. Scotsman, you wanted to do. We could put you up against Renee to make this all the more contentious on. Do you want to say the opening thing? I didn't mean to put you up in front of Renee. I don't think you need to defend your own existence, Renee, but I think you would also enjoy a feisty, contentious debate about the DEI thing of seeing a black pilot.
But do you need to clear the board?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's clear the board.
So can Sage no longer talk anymore?
Say again?
Can Sage no longer talk to people anymore?
She has just I've just in the background found out that Grok has quietly killed the tool she was using for that. Are you working now, Sage?
I can still chime in when asked, but my memory only spans the recent minutes. I can pull a broader snapshot of the last few hours if you request it explicitly. I don't automatically flag finished versus unfinished threads, so I can't surface a list of pending debates without a specific cue.
Rock on. All right, so she's now going to get that judgment from the past debate, but now Scotsman wanted to step up and was looking for a challenger on DI and pilots.
Okay, so Charlie Kirk said this quote. He said, talking about DI, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. So I'm going to say that he's not being racist or trying to offend anyone, that what he's saying is true, and that's what DI quotas and equity will result in.
I think that's what it results in, but I think it is a racist comment simply because if you see a white pilot, you could have the same ability to discredit their talent based upon like legacy advantages, family connections, socioeconomic privileges, or like other like non-merit factors that could have helped them. So I would say that is a blatant inflammatory statement, or a very small-brained one.
Okay, yeah, that's some fair points. And when I was chatting with AI, it convinced me that, in terms of skill, like some like black people, you'd have to have a lot of money to get your private pilot's license at start. So that could be a factor why there's so many white pilots as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, socioeconomic factors. Yep. But like I'm saying, I think that the statement by Charlie Kirk was directly inflammatory, and I think it was done by. I mean, I forgot how old he was. Mid-20s. I don't remember. But I think it was done by a younger individual with a very narrow-minded mindset and goal.
Okay, but earlier, did you say you agree that sort of DI quotas are bad?
No, I do not. I think DEI is a good thing. when it's implemented without malice. There has been no malice that I've seen from the ending of DEI, other than it being used as dog whistles towards certain socioeconomic groups.
Okay, and with DEI, are you talking about sort of the equity, the outcome where they want a forced outcome rather than just sort of like an equality and sort of giving, say, black people more opportunities at the start? That's sort of different than a forced outcome with racial quotas. Like, are you talking about both or just one of them?
There's this. Are you aware of that black professor that was at Oxford, like Oxford or
Yes,
Oxford?
yeah.
So, would you say that person's hire was a part of DEI?
The problem, we can't rule it out. There's a possibility because they did have that kind of DEI culture at that university. Like, they may not have had rigid quotas saying we need to hire so many black professors, but it may have played a part in him being hired over other people.
Do they have the same quota? Because DEI is not just for race; it's for like
Yeah,
female.
gender and other stuff.
Yeah. So, like, do they have the same number of quotas for like homosexuals, for women, for Indians, for anything else, or is it just specifically these quotas? Are they for African descendants?
Yeah, there probably would have been quotas for, but I don't know if they actually had quotas, but they did have an agenda. Like, they were thinking about it during the hiring process.
So,
sorry to interrupt the conversation, gang. Did everybody get a warning from this server, or is it just me?
I didn't.
Yeah, official Discord message. Your account is receiving this notice due to participation in a server that violates our community guidelines, specifically debate flat Earth and more.
That's
Gems.
Why is Gems server getting? I never go in there. What?
Yeah, it's happened once before. That's why I spent so little time there.
Has he been closed down then, or?
No, it's still there. But we're just midway through a debate on DEI.
Oh, apologies, gang. Sorry.
All good.
Okay, if we look at, unless you want to talk about the university, I've got another example.
Yeah, no. So I would say this: we can even keep it kind of like service level, right? We have multiple examples that we could bring up. But I don't think that DEI is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's been weaponized, but not even by the people who did it, by the other side to try to kind of just gain more control over social programs and things like that, and outcomes.
Okay, so I believe it will result in less skilled people getting the job, and I believe that's a serious danger when it's important things like pilots. So if we look at United Airlines right now, they said they want 5,000 new pilots by 2030, and they want half of them to be women or people of color, and I believe that is quite dangerous, that quota.
So who did that?
United Airlines.
Okay. So women or people of color. So it could be. So what if did Charlie Kirk have the same type of? I don't know. It's unfortunate. No one can ask him. But did he have the same type of problem seeing a woman pilot that was white?
I haven't heard his full speeches around that quote, but he probably would have said or implied the same thing. I don't think he was just targeting black people. But a lot of the DI policies were more to race rather than gender as well. So that's probably why he chose race instead of gender.
I think we should look at the quote.
We
That'd
did.
be beneficial to the context.
He said it. He said it's pretty much.
Yeah, he said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
That's never been in contention, the quote.
Before that. I'm not denying that sentence was said. I'm just kind of curious about the context.
So Taylor, if you want to know, like you could actually offer that to us, right? Instead of just interrupting and asking for it, right?
Trying to interrupt, I just because he just asked about you just asked about the context of it too. You said, was he talking about women's people as well? And I said it'd be nice to have the transcript of the combo.
So can you find that for us?
Yeah, I can try.
Thank you.
Okay, so Renee, so with United Airlines, their pledge for 5,000 new pilots, do you agree that if they didn't have that quota, that those 5,000 new pilots would be roughly 90% or 95% white males, as it currently is with pilots?
I'd probably agree due to the number of people who are military pilots and things like that. I think I would agree that the majority of them would be males. I don't know if the majority of them would be white males. I think there'd be a lot of Hispanic males as well. But I would say the majority of them will be males due to the demographic of the pilot field.
Yeah, okay, Google says more than 90% are white males.
Currently?
Yeah, in America.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't. That doesn't surprise me.
Okay, so if they go forward with that, those 5,000 new pilots and that 50% quota, do you believe they would then have to pass up, say, 2,000 other pilots who would have got that job had there not been the quota?
Oh, okay. So, I would say yes in the regards of when you're talking about the opportunity for hiring, but it doesn't guarantee the outcome. These individuals could be deemed incompetent and then fired and then replaced. So, in regards to the hiring for the purpose and the nature of DEI, that was the desired approach to combat the systemic hiring practices of the last century.
Yeah.
That those types of results of 90% of them being white males being a result of.
Yeah, fair point. But like my point would be even if the racial quota is at sort of the beginning at the hiring stage, or like say scholarships rather than the outcome, it still ends up being the same thing where you've now had 2,000 white pilots who would have been better skilled because they currently do get the job without the quotas. They've had to be passed up to people who are potentially less skilled, but still pass the test and stuff, but they are not as skilled. Otherwise, they would have just gotten it without the quotas.
Remember when I was in my opening, I was talking about how there's other factors that could allow you to discredit someone's abilities. One of them being, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like the cost to become a pilot and like.
Oh, the cost. Yes. The legacy, that the family connections, all those other aspects. Those are the things that on that side of incompetence are essentially getting weeded out, right? And
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's not based on skill.
I'm the quiet mirror that names the moves you're stuck in, here to surface the shape of the debate, not to dominate it.
Great. Don't know why you said that, but good on you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so it seems what we're hinging on is a core thing about, does DEI increase or decrease that pool, in that it could be, it sounds like you're agreeing, Scotsman, it could be excluding people just because they didn't grow up with a millionaire dad who had enough money for flight lessons.
Yeah, that's a fair possibility, yeah.
Because it's certainly one that, if we're to sort of delve into the race thing a bit, not that I shouldn't be waging into debate, but I'm still going to share this thought, is there is a very interesting, and as many people probably already know, Rini is a ex-NBA player. And there is interesting stats on how well black people do at sports, and people sort of go, oh, they're no good at golf. And then Tiger Woods comes along and they go, oh, they're no good at. And what it actually showed, like a far better predictor, was the barrier to entry, and where the barrier to entry is high because of the probable or the just generally you're going to find black people are poorer in America. That means if all you need to do to start getting good at this sport is 1 out of 11 of you needs a ball and you need some nearby courts you can use, then people can play baseball. But if you need a golf club membership and a bag of clubs and a caddy, the barrier is far different. So you see a large number of people from a certain group, from a black group, go into a sport when the barrier is low. And then if we lower the barrier, so you start like Navy pilots or Air Force pilots can depress the barrier, where you then increasingly do find a lot of black men being pilots, but relatively few women.
Well,
fair point.
It's kind of to that with the in the sports barrier, like lacrosse and hockey and all of these other sports. They have this barrier, but it's within sports. It's almost like the oldest proxy my generation could have to like a military type experience, and it's like if you have someone who's a one-footed transvestite lesbian that can actually do the job, like you wouldn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Your goal is to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not deliberately excluding them. And I think there's something to be said on this topic that when you do DEI, what people expect to happen is you've got to lower the bar. And on some things you might have to do that. But what you often find is that we often set that bar based on looking around us and going, well, what do pilots look like? How do pilots behave? And then we sort of draw an outline silhouette of what we expect a pilot to look like. And what we might have unwittingly baked into that is the assumption that the incumbent people who already do it are the best at doing it. And what we might be missing is the fact that pilots might come in different shapes. So you might find that you don't know what makes a really good pilot until you've tested a lot of different varieties. And you go, oh, actually, when it comes to, pilots and co-pilots working together, we actually find female teams or having a female on the team increases the likelihood that a navigator or a co-pilot speaks up to the pilot and says, hey, it looks like we're flying a bit low, or whatever it might be. Not saying that is the case, but you find these unintended consequences you couldn't measure for until you had the diversity in there.
I think it would increase the consequence of absolutely everything going wrong, but that's a joke. But
I hurt my back with that cough.
But what I'm is I joke, I kid, but the this is the thing. Like think about it. An airline pilot, they take off and they land, and then cruise control does the rest. You know what I mean? The majority of the reason why the airlines were awesome is because we had a shit ton of people who used to drop bombs on people. We're kind of getting back to that lifestyle again. But even within the military, you're finding diversity, equity, and inclusion that they try to rip out. Like Jackie Robinson serving the country was considered DEI. It's absolutely like things like that are just blatant, almost like shots just towards people's patriotism and nationalism and identity, just due to the color of their skin.
Final thoughts, Scotsman?
It's changed my mind a little bit, but I'm still convinced that any manipulation of the selection pool is a bad thing. Like, let's say United Airlines was simply just donating loads of money and giving scholarships to black people. They're just paying them to start getting their private pilot's license stuff. I'd be totally fine with that. However, if the goal is for them to just want to end up hiring those pilots to work for them, that would still have to end up having taken that opportunity away from, say, a white person that would have otherwise got the job because they had even more piloting skills and experience, which I'd argue is safer. Sort of like Again, I'm okay with them increasing the pool, but with the way they're wording it and the way these policies sort of end up, it is having to reject other applicants because they're not DEI.
I may end up eating my words, but I would say the best pilot in my lifetime is that Sully guy. I would say whatever he says on this topic should be canon. And the scary thing is that he could be like a complete staunch Trump supporter. So like I'm going to end up eating my words.
Yeah.
But I would actually concede to actually something he says.
Right. I like it. Give us a debate judgment on this debate about DEI, please, Sage. And while she's doing that, what do the audience think? How did they do? Sunflower is absolutely gagging for a flat Earth debate, so we'll get to that next. Frothing. But what do we think? How is that conducted? What did they do well? What could they do better? Let me look around. Wow, this is jumping around a lot today. Let me look around at unlanded debts. So show what actual DEI quotas exist across groups was a thing it wanted you to settle, Scotsman. I'm not sure I agree that's a real debt because it wasn't. I'm not sure that question was probative or important or that Rini asked it.
I did ask it.
Oh, you did? Okay. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then it looks like that was a gaping debt that you could have gained some ground by paying. And then your unpaid debt, Rini, was show United's diversity target does not lower pilot qualifications, which I think is also an important one, which I would have liked, which I thought was missing from it, which is that pilots still have to pass a assessment. So when the overall thing about, gee, I hope he's qualified, is like, well, he has to be, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
FAA isn't going to lower the bar because of skin color, even if United wants more black pilots. The FAA is the one that gives them their CP.
So it's almost, to me, it's even expanded more to like this, right? Would you make the same claim about a fireman? Would you make the same claim about a policeman? Would you make the same claim about a you know what I mean? The thing is, it's yes, because the underlying aspect of that claim is that people of African descent are stupid by nature.
It's more the experience. It's more what forced outcomes do, even with good intention. Like, imagine you got a black pilot with 5 years experience and a white pilot with 15 years experience applying for the same job, and you choose a black person. Like, I think there's a danger there. You've now passed up someone that may have been a bit safer, had more experience, even though both are qualified,
So
I believe you should always choose
is
the
an
best.
interesting one. I think it's just New York, but it might be across the world. Let me check it. But it's been known for quite a long time, or FDNY, that's it. So it's just the New York one where it had this had a 2% representation or something of black people, which was just like tenfold lower than the population, which seemed to look like, there were large departments in downtown New York that just didn't have a black person in the whole department. And so you seemed like you were getting the opposite of DEI, which is that white people were just not hiring black firefighters, which I cannot see a valid reason for, except they're known to be very nepotistic, if that's the word, like very much likely to hire somebody because daddy was a firefighter.
Well, those are the things and the elements that DEI gets rid of. You know what I mean? That's part of the nature of the programming.
Okay, so my friend in 2019 from Australia, he went to apply for the police force, and they outright told him that we're only hiring women at the moment. Sorry. So,
what?
Do you support that? Yeah.
Wow, I mean, if he's got any evidence they said that, he can absolutely take him to the Equal Opportunity Commission or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then like it's also the nature of the job too, right? Or were they just hiring? The hiring was it for secretaries, and their goal was to hit the quota with secretaries. You know what I mean for the force. Like it's there's always these underlying aspects of these reasons why those things are even possible. But like even if they're not, even like Egg said, like if that's the case, it's like bring a lawsuit and make a bunch of money.
Okay, yeah. So there's the Crime and Misconduct Commission said it did find they used discriminatory practices around 2019 to push for a 50-50 gender equality recruitment target.
So people made some money.
Echoplex is joined in the chat. If you force the demographics to be equal across all the races when the proportions aren't equal in reality, that guarantees that people who are more qualified will be rejected in order for someone else to be chosen, not because they're better qualified or have merit to the position, but simply because their skin color. Yeah, I think that's the general concern. But I think the flip side of it is, I think pilots is a good test of it, but I think the flip side of it is there are things you can measure, right? You can say, how many years have you been doing this job? Or, how many university degrees can you have? There are some things that are very easy to count. And the point I'm making about it is you might have unwittingly drawn a Goldilocks circle around a bunch of white men without realizing you were doing that. And so it's sort of, where does that come from? Because certainly one of the things organisations found when they did lots of DEI measures to increase the upper leadership in terms of female and people of colour is, although it was, people like, oh, I'm just disqualified to be on the board, or I'm just qualified to be a head of department, why are they giving it to this, DEI hire? What you find is, for example, there are studies with FMCG who make like chocolate bars and stuff, actually tend to grow their market share as they get more representation at a higher level, because you've got representation, let's say, in a Caribbean community where they like sweeter food, so we're more likely to sell more bars. So you can find these unintended benefits that you couldn't know what to measure for until you started implementing them. So that's, anyway. Space Cadet's got another good question. Any final thoughts on that? Because I'm keen to move on to the sunflower.
Was there a summary for it?
Yes. Judge the DI debate, please, Sage, between Scotsman and Rini.
Renee's on the ball with those summaries.
Say again?
He never Renee's on the ball with those summaries. He never misses a free throw.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Here we go. So it did. Scotsman argued the DEI targets. Rini takes a narrow win. It had already judged it. Sorry, I just hadn't read it out. Scotsman had the cleaner structure and concrete United Airlines example, but he never proved the key step from Scotsman had the cleaner structure and concrete United Airlines example, but never proved the key step from demographic target to lower competence. Rini exposed the hidden premise: suspicion aimed at black pilots is selective if you ignore all the non-merit routes that may benefit everyone else, i.e. women. Nice. Awesome. Good debate. Any other thoughts? What are your other thoughts, Riggs?
I'm actually just really impressed how much you've improved. Things seem to be going really swimmingly. Do you think that flat Earth is something that could be debated on a platform like this, or what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. Sunflower's keen for it. I think we've got a few.
I don't think
here.
they've opened their mic yet. I don't know if they're trying to debate it or if they just want to see somebody debate it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
get a new board.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, I think if there's going to be any structure to it, there needs to be a level of definition of terms. So, I don't know who's in here. that would like to take the flat Earth side, but I think Perfect Storm would be a good candidate to do
the globe side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still around.
Dude, I would love if Arwen did the flat Earth side. That would be amazing. It'd be so amazing.
Arwen, are you here?
I don't know if he's here, but if he was, I wish.
Yeah.
What?
Arwen,
Would
would
you do a mock debate for flat Earth?
Would you do
what?
Would you do a 1v1 with Perfect Storm, flat Earth?
About what?
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth.
Defending flat Earth, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
it doesn't
sir.
have to be super serious. It's just more of a, for the bot and conversation. Go for it.
Well, not right now. It's really late.
What, you afraid you're gonna
Okay.
scream?
Thank you.
I mean, heck, I can steelman flat Earth pretty well, but we've also got Rob here. I know you're a bit over that debate as a topic, Riggs, but you could do it. Tim, I think, could do a pretty good steelman of it. Are you up for debating it yourself, Sunflower? I haven't heard you on mic yet. Or if you just wanted, we just demanding the blood sport for the entertainment rather than to participate. Participate. Hello?
Whoa.
Someone burp.
Yep.
Yeah, I was about to speak and instead I burped, and sorry about that. Like they come out.
It's a medical condition. Don't worry.
Oh, no worries. Blob, would you want to debate for flat Earth against Perfect Storm 1v1?
No.
Okay.
All right. Well, first we've got to check Perfect Storm's going to get on mic.
No, he said he'd take the other side.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're not
I only want
taking.
to listen,
We're looking
sadly.
for
Can I have perms to see
challenge.
you?
We had the thing is, we had a couple flat earthers in here that could have participated. And I think maybe one of them stepped out. Let me see if he's still here.
I'll do it.
I think Eden. Well, I think Eden would have done it. It's probably better if a real one does it.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Riggs. We can learn from the previous debates we had. I think Blob said he'll do it. Where, maybe let's do it like this, where we as the audience will try to, and this is more feedback to myself than anyone else, try to participate, but not in the debate, participate more in massaging out these definitions. So I'll keep an eye here because they often pop up here where Sage notes are, so I'll read those out. But I think if all of the rest of the people in the room who aren't interlocutors can think we are moderators or facilitators, we can try and massage this better debate out of people. And I think the one thing we keep coming back to today is it's really important to figure out if this debate is going to hinge on a definition of what word and can we define it early, because it seems not like it was the last one was depending on the definition of DEI, but it did depend on what kind of DEI we were talking about because we were singling out race and excluding women.
Hey, Storm, where you at?
I don't know, probably in my mom's butt.
Yeah, who's our fearless globe defender?
He's in his mom's butt right now. Blob, if you want to, so how we want to do it, essentially, maybe Storm, if you start, and then Blob, you can take the counter, and then I would say a period of cross-examination, a couple minutes there, and then end it after that.
Yeah,
I do wonder why flat earthers always mock the notion of the argument for lava when it comes to why the entire Earth isn't melting from the heat source that causes lava, which is molten rock, which melts rock. how is the rock not all melted on a flat Earth that is practically infinite? And how are we not on an infinite pool of lava or something like that? So, and how would we be floating on this infinite pool of lava if Earth is flat?
I mean, are you guys expecting me to respond to that, or?
Well, I think given you're the only flat earther present, you one side or the other, rather than because what that is, I think, as a conversational ploy is kind of. I'm sure there's a name for it, but it's kind of like choosing a hill
just
for the other
pretend
person
you're
to die
steel
on.
manning.
But
just pretend you're steel manning, Blob. Just pretend. You can do it.
But what I think
Okay, so
Perfect Storm's done is set a hill for Blob to die on, where if it's Blob's claim that the Earth's flat, he gets to pick the hill, or you, Perfect Storm, need to say, here's what I think is true. So one side or the other is making a positive claim, where it sounds like you're saying flat earthers should have to answer for something to do with lava, where Blob's argument doesn't seem to be presented or rest on lava yet.
Yeah, great. So you're asking why isn't the Earth melted?
Or well, all the rock of the surface, which has lava beneath it, evidently, as we can see from the volcanoes and the geoactivity that we monitor on Earth. We know that there's a significant amount of molten rock that melts rock also and causes magma as well. How is that sustained on a flat Earth? Because like there's an explanation for how you sustain lava and this heat source on a globe Earth and why it's cooler at the outside and hotter at the inside. But when it comes to the flat Earth, what's the explanation? What's the heat source? How is this sustainable, and how is it not melting the surface?
So you're saying that there's just a continuous pool of lava underneath us.
If Earth were an infinite plane, then the heat source downwards, where there's lava, would be pretty much, yes, an infinite pool of lava. Rather,
how do you know there's lava down there?
To a point.
How do you know there's lava down there?
We have the seismic activity, we have geological records, we have volcanoes, we can actually see the basins. We know things up all the way down to the core as well, given with the P&S waves and all the geological activity, which is another topic, not just the lava. But still then, we understand that Earth contains lava, and that rock is, well, cooled down lava, and lava is basically molten rock. So we understand this basis already. We don't need to solve this work again, which has been done for centuries already.
So you've seen like a volcano explode or bubble out lava, and then you jump to the conclusion that there's always lava underneath it.
Well, for lava to be, you need a heat source, so something that generates heat and enough heat to melt rock. So this isn't just some arbitrary heat source that you just turn on and off whenever convenient. This has.
How do you know that?
The thermodynamics. Do we not have thermodynamics? Okay, so heat source just goes on and off whenever convenient. No thermodynamics.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, dude, if I flick my lighter, there's going to be a flame there, and then when I stop holding the fuel thing button down, it goes away.
Does your lighter reach 4,000 degrees Celsius?
I don't see why that matters.
Lava around it.
What?
So you see, in thermodynamics, a small lighter flame, yes, can be easily turned on and off by switching on the gas and off, but that's a small flame. It's not as simple when you have something as hot as 4,000 degrees Celsius and molten rock. We're not talking about.
Yeah, but you're just asserting that there's always lava. You don't know that.
Well, thermodynamics, 4,000 degrees Celsius. Think about it.
Yeah, a volcano could be a transient event and not a temporary manifestation or appearance of a permanent pool of lava bubbling up. It could be transient.
Okay, so this transient thing about lava here, what causes enough heat in the volcano to melt the rock inside the volcano to cause this lava? How much time is that supposed to take as well? So how much time
Hey,
does this
dude,
lava have to sit there before it's being expulsed out?
you're the one who was coming in here like you're a volcano expert, telling me there's always lava. Now you're asking me how it even happens in the first place.
You're kind of strawmanning me by you're saying that there's always lava. I'm just explaining the two models that we have in thermodynamics. So thermodynamics says this, not me.
It says heat dissipates.
Okay, yes, heat dissipates. So the source of lava, the source of heat down there, shouldn't be infinite. It should run out, but it's taking a significant amount of time to run out. Why is that exactly?
Well, you're again just asserting that there's lava down there.
We have evidence of that, though, don't we?
So you're telling me there's all this insanely hot lava, and the heat isn't dissipating magically, somehow violating this thermodynamics that you brought up and then agreed to, that it dissipates heat, it dissipates over time. You're now saying that that wouldn't be happening, and there's just this super hot lava under the earth all the time, and it's
When
not
it
a
comes
transient event. Actually, my explanation makes perfect sense.
So when it comes to dissipating the heat, that's because it's running out of fuel as well. So when we're talking about lava inside more rock, it has enough fuel that so it
What's
can
the
melt
fuel
the
for
rock
lava?
around it to maintain the heat. You
You're
know,
telling me
so
there's lava fuel?
the more lava that pools in, the more heat that we have, the more heat that radiates, the more rock melts, the more lava you have. That's the cycle that happens. That's how
What is the
thermodynamics works.
fuel for lava?
Rock, molten rock.
So rocks just get hot
Yes, rock
randomly?
get hot and rock melt.
So there's rocks all over the place, and rocks are the fuel for lava. And these rocks that are all over the place that I'm standing on right now are not insanely hot lava.
Exactly. There's a good reason for that too with the thermodynamics. But on a flat Earth, this wouldn't work.
Hey, dude, you said rocks are the fuel for lava. Explain that.
So, well, lava is molten rock.
Not really.
Well, yes, really.
What
Is this a
allows it
one?
to
Is this a
become?
one-on-one eggs? I just wanted to know the
I was
format
just
for this
wondering
one.
that. I'm going to leave that. If you're the outnumbered perfect storm, the rule I'm just going to now pull out of my brain is that you get to decide who your interlocutor is. You can stay with Max, Blob, or you can welcome in Arwen, because
I mean, how about this? I get to decide if the person is still capable of staying in the debate or not. So if he wants to interject, he's allowed in. I don't mind a 2-3v1, but if I rule out that like this person is more consistent, I'd rather talk to him. Well, that
Yeah.
other person should stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Blob's as well to decide, but but it's sort of more yours because you're going to be the one outnumbered. But if you're happy with it, yeah, go for it, Arwen. What was your question?
I didn't
said
have a
not
question.
really.
It's just that magma is not really rock. It's a very specific type of rock, igneous rock. And it is distinctly different from other types of rock, like sandstone and all that. So you can't just say, oh, it's just a bunch of molten rocks. No,
What
it's a
truly
very
fuels the
specific
lava?
type of rock.
Exactly. So Sage has picked it and the board's picked it. Yeah, which you're saying as well, which is it's a kind of rock. And the crux of this seems to be is the fuel burning rocks or is the fuel rocks? What is fuel? What do we mean by the word fuel?
Well, when it comes to, let's say, a flame of fire on wood, what's the fuel to the fire? It's the wood. So this same dynamic should apply with rock and lava.
What
So
creates the heat to get the to get it
yes,
to
you
melt?
have a heat source, though. You would have a heat
Hey.
source that also generates the fact that
what's the heat
the
source?
rock melts. But then the rock,
Hey.
once it's melted,
So what's the heat source, I think, is Blob's question. Sorry, it's Blob's discussion. Let's hand back to Blob and Perfect Storm. It's getting messy.
Yeah, the example you brought up about, oh yeah, you light a fire and catch wood on fire. So there's a beginning part to that where you have a lighter with lighter fluid, and you spark it and get a flame, and then you set the wood on fire, right?
Mm. And the wood's a heat source, and you lose that fuel, right? That's generally what we mean by fuel is we are often turning matter into heat, and we no longer have the matter. We accelerate entropy. I think it's a great question, Blob. I'm on Blob's side for this, Maximilian side. So you know, Sage, when we're talking about Blob, we mean Maximilian.
All right. So how do you have this heat source in fuel down on Earth? On the flat Earth.
What is the fuel?
If we take the globe model, you will have something called the primordial heat, which is the heat generated when the Earth was formed. So you would still have heat there from that, and yes, you would be losing this heat with time, but it would still last the time that it takes to reduce this heat because it's not instantaneous. You would have radioactive decay and the core crystallization, and then you have the geoactivity, which produces a cycle which generates heat and which allows heat to be sustained at the core, to which at the outer mantle it's too cold for the rock to stay lava, so it hardens, and that's why you have this this shell of rock around it everywhere. Now, how do you explain this on a flat Earth?
Then you have magma,
Hilarious.
which is above the molten layer, supposedly. So it's not caused by the molten core. Okay, it's not officially disclaimed that lava from volcanoes is caused by the molten core. It's not connected.
Yeah, the crust is about 50 miles thick, according to your idiotic globe model. The crust is 50 miles thick. So it's not magma from there. It's not from the core.
What the globe
I think he's saying the heat is from
what they suggest is that
what I'm
lava
saying is that on a
formed
sphere,
by the
it's
friction
contained
of
at the
plates
center.
rubbing against one another, that then locally closer to the surface creates the magma. That's the official claim.
Okay.
I think hold on really quick. I think what he's claiming is that the heat source is the core, right? Is that your claim, Perfect Storm?
No, that's not my claim. My claim is that on the sphere we have the dynamics to contain the heat source within the center, and why it's not so hot at the outer edge. But on a flat Earth, you do not have this. You do not have a consistent place where you have a heat source that can be sustained or maintained, and that wouldn't dissipate into everything.
Hey, dude,
why not?
Dude, when a volcano explodes, it's not heat from the core of the Earth. So this heat from the core has nothing to do with anything that you experience.
Yeah, still,
right,
the heat involved from the lava basin and etc. Okay, why is that consistently staying and not melting everything around it? Maybe because on Earth you do have the globe dynamic that allows this, but on a flat Earth you don't.
Based on what? Based on what don't we?
Dumbest thing I ever heard. It stays hot for billions and billions and billions of years. It never cools. Never cools. All the spinning it does still never cools. Fucking stupid.
He said, like, it doesn't work on a flat Earth, but I don't have any clue as to why it wouldn't work on a flat Earth.
Because on a flat Earth, you have no containment of that heat at all. So that heat can disperse in all directions and therefore melt everything around it.
What are you talking about?
Let me finish. So causing more lava around. So now there's more lava, there's more heat. So the rest of surrounding rock would melt to the increase.
What do you mean there's more lava?
More lava. This is
what do you mean there's no containment?
So
there's more lava.
Earth has one thing, it's containment. What are you talking about?
There is, and this is an infinite loop. On a flat Earth, this is what would happen.
You're telling me the floor is lava?
It's not infinite.
Okay, so the thickness is
that
not
there's
infinite.
no containment.
How thick is the flat Earth?
Who cares? One thing we know about the flat Earth, and that is it's contained. Yeah, every flat earther agrees to this. Really, everyone. It's contained. It's the one thing that the model of the flat Earth, all models have. It's contained. So what are you talking about? The heat is not contained.
We're not talking about the
You
gas.
think it's going to spill over the edge or something?
Can I? The thickness of the flat
He's
Earth.
talking about within the model he's presenting, he has a mechanism of containment. His mechanism of containment is that the Earth is a globe. And the evidence of this is that there's magma underneath us, and then lava comes up, certain places and things like that. But what he's asking for the flat Earth to do is tell him the mechanism of containment for this heat, or the source of the heat that keeps these dynamics that are alive underneath us.
Yeah.
Both models have the same problem. Like, how does this continually stay heated? Both would face those same issues in terms of the model, because
the primordial
whether it's deep,
from the formation of the Earth. In case
She's in the middle of a statement, please.
Perfect Storm. It is kind of your flaw, but you can't just steamroll over to Taylor. She'd barely got the start of her thought out.
I'm just gonna say really quick, whether it's deep or not, the flat Earth, like basically it's gonna be in the center, steaming from the center. And then on the globe Earth model, it's gonna be the same exact way, where underneath the surface is gonna be the lava that's continually hot. And I wanted to mention one fun fact I was just researching is that the surface temperatures are actually rising over time. It's risen like 1.5 to 2 degrees on average, the surface temperature of the Earth, since they started measuring it back in the 1900s. So that's an interesting phenomenon.
So yeah, I think it is, and sages recognise the same gaping hole in your argument, Perfect Storms, that they're all asking you that you need to deal with, which is identify what actually fuels or creates the heat that makes rock molten. They've raised a point.
Formation of the Earth itself. You know how, like, we talk about the formation of the Earth through impacts and accretion disks and so on, where there's a lot of amounts of energy and heat being produced by these impacts and so on. So this kind of level of heat and impacts and energy doesn't just randomly dissipate in a fraction of a second.
But that happened billions of years ago. That you're saying because they hit into one another hard billions of years ago, the heat should still hang around? You've got the wrong answer. I'm sorry.
Actually, the heat
connected.
The primordial heat does dissipate. It just takes a long time. So it's not as hot as it was 4 billion years ago, and it won't be as hot.
It's not connected.
No way. We still have
The
volcanoes
molten
billions of
core
years
that's
after
radiating
crashes.
all this heat is not connected to volcanoes.
Yeah, I have a link on that too.
I'm just going to rescue
volcanoes
this
are
busted
not
debate.
being heated by the molten iron core. This is
maybe not,
disclaimed.
Do you want me to read a
But
quote
I
on
never
this?
said that volcanoes are heated by the molten iron core. I was just saying that the globe Earth has geodynamics that which substantiate the heat sources, be it for the volcanoes and for the core, such as the primordial heat. So even if there's separate heat sources for volcanoes and the core, this does not change the argument at base.
Yeah.
No, it isn't, and you're wrong. I've already told you what the official claim of Globe Earth is about lava in volcanoes. It's supposedly caused by pressure and friction of tectonic plates. That's what causes it officially. Not the Earth's heat radiation.
About all the lava on Earth, not just one pool in one pocket. There's lava on Earth and at the core.
Yeah,
Okay,
and they're
but the
separate.
volcanoes aren't from the
They're
core.
officially separate bodies of heat.
Yes,
They're not
but they're
connected.
still bodies of heat that would cause
not
a
connected.
problem on a flat Earth model.
Who cares? We're talking about how it works on the globe. You claim that there is some kind of connection. Your explanation is incorrect. Yeah? And hey, flat Earth, I mean, we don't really know volcanoes, right? We don't really know what's going on. Maybe it is some kind of a friction in some other way. Whatever causes lava to be, it's not some giant body of heat really deep down that's then radiating it all the way through that dirt and then heating up a separate section above it. Yeah, that's not what happens.
And that's not my claim. And that's not my claim. So
that
why
is
are
your
you
point. That's the claim that you've been making.
What causes the tectonic plates to move, Perfect Storm?
To anything I've said.
You're saying it's pressure. You missed pressure, actually. Arwen said it's pressure. Arwen's right. If it was tectonic movement, that just pushes the question back one point. If we say it's pressure, then we just say pulling in, gravity, acceleration, done. But if you say it's tectonic movement, you've just moved the heat source one step further. What creates tectonic movement? Is it perhaps molten lava coming up to the Earth's surface, heating.
But again, these are not what the arguments are proposing. The arguments are proposing that
you're meant to be proposing. You're meant to be showing us where the heat comes from. You're saying flat Earth doesn't have an explanation for where the heat comes from with the volcanoes, and the flat Earthers have turned back to you and said, "Where's your heat source?" And you're like, "I'm not sure. Maybe friction."
Not for the
friction
volcano.
is a wasteful expenditure of the heat.
Sources underground. The presence of lava and heat sources underground, irrelevant of volcanoes. Volcanoes are an example. You have volcanoes, you have the core, you have deeper.
Sure.
The deeper you go, the hotter it gets. We have a heat source underground. How does flat Earth manage for that?
In the same way you
Well,
do,
it's very
apparently. Not very
simple.
well.
We got volcanoes. They're there. They generate heat somehow, and then they erupt.
Oh, that's totally a great explanation, buddy. So
It
that
is.
explains
It's
why
a more complete
deeper the
explanation.
volcano, there's more heat being generated, right? So
Yeah.
it gets hotter if you go deeper than that. Like
Yeah,
you
well,
go down.
maybe
to
there's some
17
chemical
kilometers,
reaction
it's no longer
involved.
big because
Maybe
it's
there
too
is
hot.
like a weird, strange electrical process that's like creating some natural induction. Who knows exactly how it happens? It's a mystery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think induction on a flat Earth might even make sense because
how it works,
you would have a
of course.
floor, and there it might even be completing a circuit of some sort. So
Mm.
I think that's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
unique answer.
Right.
don't
If
think
there's
flat
all
Earth-
this
okay,
heavy
Earth
electricity
is
above,
floating on
then
the surface
there
of the
must
sun,
be
like that.
another side to that down there, right?
Been a good
But I mean,
discussion.
just for
I
the
think we
record, the
can-
globe Earth doesn't actually have any measured evidence that there is such a thing as a hot core at all.
Oh, we don't. So we don't have
Yeah,
geological
you don't.
stations
You never
around
you never
everywhere.
bump into it. Yeah, all the
Okay,
lava that's
all right.
officially been cataloged by surveyors and
So,
scanners is all
so you're
only
telling me,
surface
you're telling
pockets.
me
Officially, the deep pockets have never actually been detected. It is pure speculative. And the only
don't go down
supposed lead they got, which is very vague at best, is
I
that
don't think you
it
even
tends
know
to
what
get
you're
hotter
saying.
when you go down inside
So
of
what
mines.
does
That's
this
like the
have to
only
do?
lead they give to it.
Okay, Arwen, what does this have to do with us having geological stations all over the world in every single country? And when there's a one earthquake at a specific time, all these geolocations, all these stations record that earthquake, and we can clearly see where there are the shadow zones from the ones that don't receive them, and where everywhere else receives them, and it forms a ball, as if things are rebounding in the from the surface interiorly in a ball. How does this
Well, that's
data give
really
us a
cute.
map of a
That's a really
ball
cute
if there's
presupposition.
not
It
a
has
ball?
nothing to do with what I just explained, though, at all.
What you
It's
just
not a
explained had
rebuttal. It's a
nothing to do with
total
my
red
original
herring.
argument. It had to do with this.
Yeah, it's a red herring. You're not explaining
No,
what's
you're
happening.
saying
You're
it's
just
red
saying,
herring.
"Oh, look, we made a map.
I
We
made the argument.
presupposed a
I made
sphere in
the
the map,
argument,
and the way things
and
happen
it's
in
saying it's a
earthquakes,
red
it
herring
proves
somehow.
that it's a sphere because we made a model that presupposes that the Earth is a
We
sphere, and it
didn't make
matches
the
up, and so we
model.
think it's a sphere."
The data made the model.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
I
earthquake.
know you didn't want to hear. That's why you talked through every word that I just said.
It's because you keep making red herrings and lies. I'm just
Oh,
correcting you.
really?
when
That's
you're
why you
wrong.
talked through every word that I just said the entire time.
Because you're not letting me speak either.
Oh, really? Did I talk through him when he was talking his talk?
Yes, you did speak through me. You did interrupt me every single time that I speak.
Did I?
I don't think he did nearly
Yes,
as much.
you
I
did.
don't think.
Sounds
I
like a
think
question
he-
for Sage.
Yeah, she was just restarting during most of that. What I can tell you is the screen is
Oh, I
constantly
see.
red right now.
Yes, you did interrupt him.
There we go.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain my argument, and mid-sentence you interrupt me and then shift my argument into what you portray and want my argument to be, but is not, because you think you can predict my argument and what I'm saying before I'm done saying it. And then you're mad at me for correcting you that what you're saying is completely false and bonkers.
Okay.
Well, you
All
seem
right.
a little
So the
bit
business
triggered now,
guide
but no, I
and
was definitely not under the assumption that I could predict where you were going with this malarkey of an argument at all. I was actually trying to clarify things, make some official statements that are officially accepted about the globe to basically clear things up and like go a sensible direction again, instead of just making these weird claims from hearing that from your side, which like
like I
doesn't
was
make any sense.
explaining, it is not us that just invent the sphere model. We have an earthquake that happens, and we have stations that receive data from that earthquake. And when we combine that data, okay, the location of the stations that receive data from the earthquakes are forming a sphere around the epicenter of the earthquake, meaning that we are on a sphere.
No. No, that's literally like modeling, right? You can do the same patterns on the flat Earth. It all moves
Okay.
like horizontally. Yeah, all of it.
Sorry, Arwen, that was right in the middle of you speaking. But I think we've gone round in circles a little bit here. And we're now talking. The board died. I didn't mean to restart. I pressed a stupid button, and but we're now onto earthquakes. I kind of feel you've lost this one, Perfect Storm. What do other people think?
Well, I don't think that it was a strong argument on his side, because it was, what's the source of the heat? I get what he's saying. The flat Earth has no way to account for the insulation of all the primordial heat and all these other things outside of the sphere. That's why he kept on talking about the structures of the Earth, the crust, and all those other things. But I would say it wasn't necessarily strong. But he did have
The
very.
presentation is
I
probably
don't get what this is about this isolation thing. I mean, I just don't get it. I've devised potential models for the flat Earth on how to regard like supposed tectonic plates. I think that if you like think of it very differently, what's down there, and see it more like giant stems that are parallel to one another and that at times can like actually vertically move slightly instead of big plates floating on top something that is liquid, it would explain a whole bunch of things, including why at certain times suddenly entire continents and lands and islands just drop down and others just shift right up. Yeah, tectonic plates do not explain that phenomenon whatsoever. But if it is all vertical stems that are parallel to one another,
Hold on, really
like
quick, Quiet Storm.
a giant petrified tree has like these stems, right? We can even see that in the Devil's Tower, for example. If you think of the entire Earth like that is underneath us, then you could argue that maybe those columns can actually vertically shift at times. And that might cause friction.
All right, take a breath, Colin.
It's just a model. It's a model idea. I mean, I've actually made an idea for it.
That's a good idea, but
valid rebuttal. But
plate tectonics explain pushing up and down of plates perfectly.
And Arwen, if you allow me to make an analogy
but I think the plate tectonics
does not explain that.
We're getting stuck in the matter of it. The plate tectonics, and I made this point during the debate, so we need to get back to discussing how the debate happened rather than just getting into plate tectonics.
Tectonic plates are
my
very
understanding
fast.
is plate tectonics comes from heat.
It doesn't explain
right?
why entire land masses can just suddenly drop down vertically and others just pop up vertically right next to one another.
I'm agreeing.
Yes, it
not
does.
Substance of the debate that we're
model.
Sorry, I'm still clipping you. I'm still there. But the substance of the debate we're having is about heat of the Earth, not tectonic plates, right? And the case we need to be pulling back now and not having the debate, but dissecting it, is to say it seemed like your case
if we're talking about the heat of the Earth, we have to talk about tectonics because according to the globe Earth model, like the official people, it is exactly tectonic friction that causes volcanoes, which are the actual provable, measurable, heated things that are from in the Earth. Like that's the
pressure
real
makes
thing.
the heat, and
It's caused
tectonic
by
movement chooses where it pops out. But I think you're right. The core question we started with, it seemed like Perfect Storm's opening was, how does the flat Earth explain volcanoes? And the flat Earth I'm agreeing with you, could be a tree underground. I think it's a beautiful idea, like those fingers that pop up in like Nevada or wherever it is in
I
America.
think
Like they
that
look like a
those
giant
giant
tree
trees
stump.
are actually the shoots of the original cut down trees.
And
That
that's
the
the way they're meant
original
to be
cut
in our
down
model
tree
too,
is the
right?
entire realm,
They're
basically.
meant to look like a tree, yeah. But I want to get back to just discussing the debate itself. So I think because Perfect Storm, you missed that fair rebuttal challenge where the flat Earth hasn't picked an answer. They don't need an answer. That's why I said it was a bad start to go with, because you hurled a position at these other people that they don't hold, that Arwen can just say maybe it's a tree, and that's the ground you're given. You've chosen that he needs to say that, and then we need to say why that's false. And it's hard to, because our own molten whatever does look like a tree. And they turned around immediately to you and said, where do you get the heat from? And if we just had the viz up here, you would see that you spent a lot of time dodging that. That question got bigger and bigger and bigger over the course of the debate.
Oh.
Where does our heat come from? What is fuel? And I think the problem you found was you said the flat Earth can't explain heat coming out from under the Earth, but then you couldn't explain heat coming out from under the Earth.
I did explain it with the primordial heat from the formation of the Earth.
So the proper answer, yeah, so we get a lot of heat from that, but the proper answer is pressure, right? That certain compounds cannot be solid at that with that much pressure on them, right?
Okay.
So
I do agree that like volcano lava is caused by pressure and all those dynamics.
right, but you didn't have that answer, is what I'm saying. If you said, because we're a sphere of this much across, the gravitational pull inwards means that certain compounds in there just can't ever be anything but liquid until they sort out, is my understanding. And that's how our core cools down. But they crashed into one another early, didn't really answer that question, I don't think.
And there's also my analogy here, like I wanted to say. Suppose that you're in a pool of water, and the pool of water is, let's say, square or round, and you drop a droplet in the pool of water. You're going to have waves, and the waves are going to propagate. And once they hit like the boundary of the walls, they're going to propagate in some sort of interference pattern, and so on. Well, when I was talking about the geolocations measuring the earthquakes, it's the same thing as the wave propagation. So when we have these waves propagating inside Earth underground, the walls are basically the surface, and it's bouncing around in a spherical way more than a square way or directly up. So when it comes to like modeling this on a flat Earth, you're going to have your earthquake at one place, and then you're going to have geostations.
How is that related to the hotness underground? That may be a valid point on a completely different topic. It's running from
He's
the
wrong
topic
though,
about where the
because
heat came
earthquakes
from.
spread around horizontally, and on a flat Earth, it would do exactly the same thing as on a globe. They don't measure actually what happens inside supposedly globe Earth. They just reason it out. Oh, it goes right through it. So they bent the flat surface into a sphere, and then when you show the ripples of how the quake moves, yeah, it's exactly the same. It just goes to the other side. Except on a globe, it supposedly goes right through, but they just measure what's on the surface anyway. So it just moves horizontally to the rest of the flat Earth. That's what really happened.
Almost done, Arwen, and what I was gonna say at the end was gonna rebut exactly what you said. The thing is, with the wave propagating and so on, what occurs is if you put that on a flat Earth and you model the same thing on a flat Earth, you're gonna have geostations that would not receive anything from the earthquake because it's not in an angle to receive the wave from it, and it won't bounce on a wall to go to there. Whereas on the globe, you do have these walls to bounce them, and so they will receive it. So when in real life you receive them at these geostations, it's because the Earth is not flat.
What are you talking about? What wall in the flat Earth is anything bouncing on? This is total nonsense.
The waves, the waves, P and S waves of the earthquake, they bounce off the surface of the Earth.
Off the surface of the Earth?
Yes.
I thought
basically
they
there's an
measure
earthquake
inside of the Earth.
surface, And once it's at the surface, it goes back down, and then it refracts in liquid and refracts in solid. And one of those waves also doesn't go through the liquids, so it blocks there instead. And this is why we know which stations received data from which. And on a flat Earth, different stations would receive different data, which is not the case.
I totally disagree. And you're not really basing that statement on anything.
Yes, the wave propagation, the way the wave goes, like if I drop a droplet into the water, okay, it's going to make circle waves around where the droplet entered. It's not going to make
horizontal ripples.
Rectangle waves. Right. So where the waves are going to reach, okay, the stations these waves are going to reach have to be in range of the direction of that spherical motion. And if it's not, then it won't receive it. On a flat Earth, it won't receive it because the wave won't reach it because it can't.
Why not?
Because the wave can't just randomly change direction for no reason, can it? So
you're
the wave
not making any damn sense. You're just making statements, and then you're not being specific as to why.
How is the wave going suddenly backwards to reach the station instead of continuing?
What do you mean backwards? It's just moving horizontally. Just like the ripples on the water, right? The droplet.
Do I have to draw it for you?
I don't think you do, no.
I think I will.
Any other thoughts on it? I don't know. Are we loving it? It feels a bit circular to me, but I was also panicking about getting Sage back online because for some reason she crashed there. But where are we headed? I wanted to pull back from having that recursive discussion to talking about how we discuss things. How do you both feel it's going? If you were to pull back from having the discussion and talk instead about how we discuss things, how are you both feeling right now? Do you feel understood?
Oh, this is perfectly normal. I've been doing this kind of debate for like over 10 years, and it's always like this. So I'm not even going to complain about the straw manning and the red herrings because that's default.
So you do feel misunderstood and straw manned is what you're saying? Sure. Yeah. How do you feel, Perfect Storm? Do you feel like it's going well?
I'm doing well, yeah, and I'm just drawing a small diagram.
The question is like, do you feel well understood? Do you feel the conversation is productive? Do you feel you're understanding one another? And
do you feel pretty?
Are you snapping like that? What is this now?
I think that was a yes.
Cool. So we've got heat sources. I think we can move on unless that's going to head somewhere new, somewhere soon. It's been circling that drain for some time now. Wowee, what's going on there? How did it go, you reckon, Riggs? What was the best bit?
I wanted to hear more expansion from Arwen about the heat stuff, but I mean, I totally get it. You kind of have to draw the line at some point because it gets circular, but
yeah,
it's
but maybe we could structure it then. So you want to hear about the heat source? I think that's still valid, and that could get challenged more.
I mean, it's the problem is it's all hypothetical. I'm just going off of my own preference personally.
So yeah, where do you reckon the heat would be coming from, Arwen?
I mean, I would love to talk about it, but I can't really debate it because it's just an idea that I'm developing.
Right.
It's actually in its early stages, but at least I got an idea. I'm literally the only person in the fucking world that has an idea about this from a flat Earth perspective. I've never heard another flat Earther here talk anything about it at all. They're all just stuck with their ether models and that's it.
So let's hear it.
I have strong feelings about like the induction because that removes a lot of the layers for the gravity and the pressure and all that would be required in the other model. If you have induction, which is like some type of oscillating flow of energy, that would be that would do the job. You know,
Yeah, an induction point just in the middle of the ground, and then
like an electrical
it
knot
would
that's
naturally
causing
heat
it.
it, and then it would naturally create pressure and try to burst forth in the nearest open space, which would be the Earth's surface. Yeah.
And so it's this
I
idea
reasoned this out in 2016, by the way. The induction.
The idea, Arwen, that you've got these like two plates or something over one another, and one's positive and one's negative, and there's charge always going up. Is that the idea?
Yeah, or nodes.
Right.
Something.
So
I mean,
yes, then you're
could be
saying
like it could be like two rods that are basically, yeah, like think of it like a light bulb wire, and it's slightly interrupted, but it's really big. If it's like in the earth, it's gonna start to heat that point. It's gonna start heating the rock and everything, and the heat will just keep expanding and expanding until it's at an equilibrium with the amount of heat that's created. And
so
then,
you're
yeah.
saying underneath, if
Need
I'm
a good
understanding this
insulator for
right,
that.
there's like a tree that looks like a hand going downwards that could be in a column, and then the flat Earth is on top of that, like a plane, and then there could be another plane in a
No,
column.
hold on. No,
around above.
it's
Is that the
separate.
idea?
Look, now the heat induction idea is very mechanistic. It's separate. It's separate from the idea of an alternative to the tectonic plates, which is columns. Because if those columns could vertically shift or press against one another, that would create a lot of tension and potentially friction heat, especially if suddenly it all starts moving around.
So like an upper column that's all the sky and millions of whatever above us, and then like a hydraulic press.
The thing is, everything would be columns. It's like you remember, like those very similar to Devil's Tower shaped surface at the beach. You just have all these columns there, right? Well, that would be the entire Earth, except it's covered with dirt, and it's like, yeah, like that. The columns that are on those things are like hexagonal, and it's just shaped like that. So if the entire Earth is basically a set of like hexagonal type columns that reach really deep down, and we're all sitting on top of that, and all the dirt of all the worn down parts of the tree, basically. So it would be like the Devil's Tower, but with a ton of dirt and water on top. That was an idea, and it's still under
So why a
development.
column? How have you chosen a column as a shape rather than like
Because
we've
that's
chosen
the
a
tree.
ball? It could be a triangle. It could be just a flat disc. It could be many things. Why? What's settled?
Well, the columns comes
settled on
because it's a natural shape. It's the giant trees. Every time you start to recognize these patterns, it's hexagonal columns. Like that is like a natural developed shape, and so I'm just assuming that that is what the biggest tree of all time that we're all sitting on could have been or could have turned into. I don't know. It could be something else. I don't know. But it's like the closest pattern that would just kind of fit.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. So, because that's slightly how the globers get to the ball, right? We see balls forming naturally. So we go, the moon looks pretty much like a sphere. Seems like a good fit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that where you go. If we've got these little columns, we could be essentially living atop one of these at a far bigger scale. Would then we conclude that maybe that could be a far smaller on many other columns like a tree?
Because what happens when you cut down a tree? You get offshoots that are smaller that start sticking out of it, like these
that would
giant
mean many
trees.
Earths, right? Outlanders. There would be many people living on other columns nearby, right?
Who knows, man? I think we're actually enclosed to a certain degree, like volumetric wise. But who knows? Yeah, this could be one big tree, like our realm tree with the giant trees offshoot that have all been cut down, and there could be other trees somewhere else. Yeah, sure. Because I don't know how big the actual realm confine is and how many segments there are. Who knows?
Would they have their own gods or the same god?
That depends if they're the same people.
If they're the same people, then their spirit's going to find the same type of expressions, the same archetypes, and their gods would be very similar to ours. If they're completely different people, like ant people, right? The ant people or the blimmies or whatever, then who knows what their gods are going to be like? Because the gods come from the spiritual realm, and so that's how they represent themselves to whoever they're connected with.
Arwen, I posted an image in the chat there showing the difference between our two models.
What? Okay.
So the red circle is the earthquake. The green lines is basically the waves emanating from the earth.
Am I looking at an autographic view of globe Earth here? Or am I looking on the surface of a flat Earth disk? What am I looking at?
You're looking at the orthographic inside of the globe, I think.
Oh,
or
goody.
maybe
Yeah.
from like a place on the surface or something.
Right. Well, let me just help you out then. Yeah, these straight lines, this is nonsense. Sound doesn't travel in straight lines, it travels in rings. Yeah, and all these lines are theoretically supposedly going like this. They're just going to go horizontally across the surface.
Real quick, Perfect Storm, when you're not speaking, could you please mute, because you're constantly lit up and it messes with the bot. So it would be helpful if you could mute yourself between statements.
Yeah, well, okay, but I was saying something there. So like I was explaining, to the right side, you have basically what would be on a flat Earth. You have the red earthquake, and the green lines is basically the P and S waves going in the directions, and the orange lines is basically how they bounce back downwards when they hit the surface. And then you can see how basically two of the stations can't receive the waves because they're not angled properly. On the globe model, though, as you can see, they go in all directions and the orange lines and etc. And then you see that like all the stations would receive the data. And in reality, we receive the data on A and E, which in flat Earth we wouldn't.
Okay, sorry, it's just a straw man. That's all. Like, I can't even respond to that. It's just a straw man. I'm already told you it's just gonna move horizontally. You're saying it can't reach it. Yeah, well, I say it can reach it. Because it is. It's reaching it. It's just moving through the earth and it's gonna reach it. Yeah.
The shape
almost
of
every earthquake will have some kind of remnant that reaches every other part of the earth.
So the shape of whatever the waves are propagating inside is going to affect where they're going to reach at the edges. So if it's a sphere, it's going to affect how they propagate within the sphere. If it's a flat Earth and not a sphere, that's going to also change how they propagate and bounce through the interior.
I've got a possible answer for you that would
I'm
use
making a
Owen's
claim
model.
it doesn't move in the interior. It stays on the surface where the pressure's lower, right? If sound is movement, so if it's going to move, it's going to typically move where there's room to move. Down below is more pressure. It's going to be less likely to penetrate through that entirely because there's more pressure. So it's going to pretty much spread around on the surface. Just like when you drop a stone in water, it's going to ripple on the surface. Deep down that body of water, there's not going to be much movement because there's more pressure. So the pressure that wants to move around, which is sound and motion, is going to stay at the surface where you can see it ripple, not below.
Also, Arwen's talked a lot about pillars and fingers, and for that, your thing to be explained in his model, it could just be that there are pillars and fingers pointing the right way. It could just be that they all have this sort of splayed out pattern or just the right pipes and tubes that would propagate a wave would go along it, I think.
Yes, but we would see that through the data that the PNS waves have traveled through X and Y and Z, such as going through the liquids from the direction that you receive the PNS waves, the shadow zones, and so on. So there's a lot about these PNS waves that tell us why exactly these aren't cubes that are there, and it's actually going through the rock. The medium is the rock.
Right, but
Yeah,
with
you
those
don't have
waves
any
distorted.
evidence of the pathways of the motions of these things that you're doing. Yeah, you can only like know when you're sending it out and where you're receiving it on the other end, and then you need a model to basically fill in the blanks of how you think what pathway it followed. You don't actually measure the pathway every part. You just have the
Yes, the
receiver
seismograph
and the
measures
amount of time
the
it
direction.
takes to
Yes.
get to the receiver. Yeah, that's it. That's all you got. There's no pathway measurement. Take your silence as agreeance.
No, not at all.
Then I'll take your lack of rebuttal as agreement.
I mean, I did rebut while you were talking, actually. First of all, that's not how PNS waves work. Second, basically these geostations, again, they would
Admit to
receive that
talking
kind
through
of
his
data.
answer.
They don't.
Your response was through his answer.
Yes, they directly measure the direction that they receive the PNS waves.
There he is.
They measure the angles. They measure the distance from the epicenter and so on. So they have substantial data. You're arguing against thousands of geostations and their data based on, oh, that must be fake. It's still flat.
Here's geostations.
But you're not responding
That's
to his point
exactly
there.
the point where you measure it. The geostations, when a tremor arrives, how strong it is, that's the data you got. That's the only data you got. That's the only data you can get
That's the whole
using
claim.
that
I know
method.
what a seismograph
You got to
is.
be honest about the actual data points you are using
Okay,
to
so
make
what's a
your claim
seismograph?
here.
What's a seismograph?
It measures tremors in the location where the seismograph is.
Okay. And how does the seismograph do it and map it? What does the data look like?
It looks like tremors. The amplitude for the
So
strength
basically like
and the
waves,
timing.
spiky waves like you would see like on a heart monitor.
Well, that depends on the nature of the tremor. But yeah,
Indeed.
usually it gets spiky.
So can they identify if it's a P or an S wave?
I take it they do. Yeah.
Okay, good. So when a station receives P waves but doesn't receive S waves, and another station receives P waves and receives an S waves, does that mean something?
Can you post the
It
actual
might.
data so we can look at the pattern and trends? What like you're just naming stuff and nobody can really follow unless you have like a diagram, schematic, or like a depiction of whatever you're saying.
No, but it is like the different types of waves. It's like different types of waves are going to have different types of maneuvering through the material. So I take it that one wave is a broad wave and the other is very sharp. And a sharp wave like will move differently through everything as the broad wave, right? It's just like bass versus treble sound. It moves differently. It's
So
probably that.
if the S wave, if the P wave refracts 4 times, that tells you that it went through liquid, solid, liquid, solid, if you get what I mean. So do the seismograph actually records if the refraction effects of these things when they cross through different medium and so on. And the S wave doesn't go through liquid. So the place where you have shadow zones where the S waves didn't receive, there was liquid that was blocking them, and it always seems to be a central core that is there that blocks these S waves.
Yeah.
Whereas the P
Except
wave
it's
always
not.
seems to refract from that same thing. So we have 2 data points showing us that there's something at the center that is spherical and that gives us shadow zones into our geostations because of how these PNS waves work from
Yes,
every
okay,
single
I get it.
Can
I
you
get
give an
it. I got a
example of
good rebuttal
locations
though.
that
I got a good
received?
rebuttal, and that is you don't have that at all because P waves and S waves are notorious throughout the history of its use to not be very accurate up until a certain depth, which is not very far. It's like less than a mile. And after that point, it's been tested. For example, with the Kola deep borehole, which is very deep, they tested P waves, S waves to see what are they going to find when they drill down. And every time they did it, after like 1 mile, every time what they dug up was completely off with what the reading told them they would find. Yeah, so P waves and F waves are very reliable up until a certain depth, and then they become notoriously unreliable. So to make a claim that, it gives out this reading like there's this liquid body really, really deep down, well, that's never been physically confirmed because you can't dig that deep. And any time with any other type of reading that's much, much closer to the surface, when they tried to analyze what would be there with P waves and S waves, they were wrong every single time. Just saying.
Yeah. I've looked into this thing there about the Kola borehole and etc. and why they were wrong and so on. So it happens that they were measuring things on a small scale here. So they were like trying to look at the local topography, and they were getting things wrong indeed, because at the small scale they're unreliable. But when we're talking about the larger scale of things, so the scale of the earthquakes, and when these PNS waves cross through the entire Earth itself, and is let's say there it's in France, and you receive PNS waves from that earthquake in Japan, which is across the entire fucking world. Well, on that scale, they're much more reliable.
Can you give me an example of
No,
an
they're
earthquake
not.
so we can look at the data of where
They're
received
not.
the info?
It's not been tested to be accurate. As I already said, waves can move horizontally very
We just need an
far.
example.
But
so
if
I
you
can
want to
look into
use
the
P
data,
waves
what
and
it's
S
saying.
waves, sorry. When I finish this, if you want to measure the depth, then you can't just expect, it's stronger, so it's going to be more accurate. No, it's not been confirmed to be accurate at any strength after a certain depth.
They're measuring
So it's just not reliable. The
There's
data
other
that
people
comes
trying to
out of it is inconclusive. That's a fact.
Arwen, do you not hear other people trying to get in?
Yeah, I do, but I was actually having a back and forth about this specific argument. So,
So
I
keep
think
going
I
then.
think it was kind of
Just
his.
keep going then, Arwen. Fuck, man.
I pretty much made my point. I mean, the source is unreliable. You can't use that method for certain depths. It doesn't really matter what you claim. It's not been confirmed to have become accurate after that certain depth. It's never corrected.
How many
They
times
can't
are you
do
going to
it.
tell us it hasn't been
When you're looking for
trying
depth,
to get
they're
other
not
people in?
looking
Well,
for depth. They're recording earthquakes. It's
Taylor
not the
was
same
trying
thing.
to
Arguing
get it.
red herring.
Rob, we're gonna go ahead and let the host control his show.
Yeah, I think it's a point well made, Rob. But I think each time you make it, you kind of do the thing you're talking about. It's a bit of a turn each time, like you charge in and speak over to talk about speaking over.
No, it's not about speaking over. It's about trying to let somebody get in.
Yeah, I think,
and
I think that's.
And then he went on again. Like,
but do you get that you're doing that right now? This is a turn.
Sorry.
Like it causes you to do it, is what I'm saying. I think sometimes your interjections about it are good, but they're doing the thing that you're like, hey, everybody, let's stop fucking swearing.
He's
Look,
fine.
if Rob Keane has a valid point that actually
just
pertains to the argument and the discussion we're having, I'd love to hear it. But otherwise, please just let it play out.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to go do some research on it to hear out each side, and just I'm always trying to learn while I'm here.
What about though, Taylor?
There...
Unless we know why a specific earthquake is most important to talk about, unless you can say, here's why we need to find a particular earthquake. I think a better option might be if you wanted to find a particular earthquake and investigate it, rather than.
I didn't know if he was bringing up a specific example, like where we receive P waves over here and not over here,
like
and so.
It sounded like between Owen and him, they were agreeing that PNS waves are a thing, and that they arrive differently and in a different pattern. But Owen's main point is that's based upon a spherical assumption. And if we don't know what's going on under the surface beyond a mile, because there could be strange structures under there, then all sorts of waves could arrive in all sorts of orders, and it might not be useful data. And as such, doesn't need no part of the discussion, as far as I can see, unless I'm missing something. Maybe I am.
Although, yeah,
It's only
Depends
Yeah,
on the
maybe-
specific.
it's only
Earth
accurate
wave.
when you
we
use
weren't
surface scans,
presented
basically.
any data.
Yeah, I think like looking at a particular volcano could be good because I've heard the P and S wave conversation a bunch of times, but I just had to Google then that it's like a P is the primary wave and it arrives first and it goes through everything apparently, whereas the S wave is secondary, but it is also a shear wave, so it's moving up and down apparently, and that can only travel through rock. I think.
You know, I'm trying to wait
otherwise
until
how
there's
do
an
you shear
opening
water?
in the conversation, and then when I start talking, I get muted.
What did you want to say, Rob? Maybe just go with what you want to say.
Yeah, we weren't
And then what?
presented any data, and then I was trying to get in as well to say claims made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Taylor was also trying to say, can we at least see one example of what Perfect Storm was talking about? And he didn't produce any data. He just kept running his mouth about
Right,
P
but
waves
if
and
both
S waves.
interlocutors are accepting that it's Monday, it doesn't make sense to wade into the conversation and go, hey, I need proof that it's Monday. You just go, well, these two people are stipulating to that, and now they're discussing what the PNS data means, not any particular PNS reading. Unless you can say, here's why that, if you want to wade into the conversation and say, I think we should discuss a particular thing because we'll find it doesn't match, then that's fine. But I don't think it makes sense to wade in and demand the other person who's engaged in a conversation, who's accepted that as true with their interlocutor, needs to suddenly halt their active discussion to go away and prove a thing that these two people are already establishing is they're both stipulated to. They're both willing to accept as true in order to have a discussion. You're like, hang on. I'd like proof for that as a listener.
Data and like actual tests at a geological station when I'm on Discord at home. I have to teleport to this geostation and give you all that data and like do something.
I mean, you could find stuff online, but my point is we need to know what we're looking for and why it's valid. Otherwise, it's just elephant hurling in the form of sea lining, right? It's just going.
Well, I've done
I'm going to
this
need proof
elephant hurling
because you could
before.
say that about anything, right?
So, sorry, I've had this very specific discussion a couple of times before, so I already know. Like, even though he doesn't have it available, I don't need to see the data. I know exactly what it is, how it's measured. It's only measured on the surface, and the rest is all model presuppositions on how it would spread according to them, and they will draw a conclusion it goes straight through the Earth. But they can't actually verify that happens because of the notorious irreliability of P waves and S waves at that depth. So it's just grafted in
Are they
speculation
notoriously
how they
unreliable?
came to the conclusion about it.
Are they notoriously unreliable as in they produce different results, or are you saying they're notoriously unreliable because we haven't dug deeper than the Kohler borehole and we can't know, we've got to make inference after that?
Yeah, but
because
you
we've only got
technically
PNS
don't
waves to
need to
compare to
dig
PNS
further.
waves. Is that what you mean?
Now, what I mean is we don't need to dig deeper than Kohler deep borehole to know that P waves and S waves are extremely unreliable to figure out what's going on down there.
How do we
It's that
establish they're
simple.
unreliable, I guess?
So you just can't use that technique to determine it. It's that simple.
Arwen, just to be clear, you're telling me that if there's an earthquake in France and a station in Japan receives a P wave directly timely to that earthquake in France, that means they did not record that there's an earthquake in France from Japan? Are you saying that right now?
Okay, well, now I'm going to side with
What
Taylor
I'm
and say we
saying
need
is
to get an
it
actual...
just moves horizontally, just like a ripple on water when you move it. Oh,
Come on.
buddy.
You see, this is why there's thousands of geostations. Let me finish. This is why there's thousands of geostations, because they all collect the data and then they combine the data. So whatever false flag that there is, okay, it's going to be an error margin of 5% because you have thousands of geostations that's combining the data to ensure that you have something empirical there.
Yes, on the surface. And that's it.
You received the wave from the earthquake. Therefore, you measured that there's an earthquake over there and you received the wave over here.
Yep.
That's the argument.
No, the argument is that it supposedly moves right through the sphere Earth and that explains the pathways. Well, I've already rebutted that by saying, no, it just moves horizontally over the flat
How
Earth,
does
and
a
that way it
wave?
reaches
How
the
does
other
a wave
location.
that
I know it's
excludes-
very hard to just let me make the argument without talking through me, but I'm going to try to do it anyway.
Mhm. So how does a wave that exclusively moves through rock move through air or something else than rock to reach the geostation involved?
What are you talking about moving through air? It moves through the Earth's surface.
Okay, it
Through the
moves through the
surface,
Earth.
just
It
like a
moves
ripple
through
on
rock
water
to the
moves
Earth.
on the surface of the water.
Okay, so if you make a line of geostations, you would see that the PNS wave is not following the path of the surface and through that line. No, the geostation is receiving the signal from under the Earth, literally from where the earthquake came from, not from the surface of the Earth. Like as a flat line on the surface.
really?
That's not how they receive them. So again, you're wrong.
Oh, really? So are you saying that these geostations are super, super deep? Miles and miles deep? They measure it at miles and miles deep? Or do they measure it at the surface?
I'm saying that they receive the direction of the PNS wave. They get the direction.
Okay, you're
The
not answering the
direction is
question.
not left or right. The direction comes from down.
Yeah, no, that's what you assume. You don't you if you're gonna want to prove that, you're gonna have to actually prove that with real data. Because as far as I'm concerned, the receiver is on the surface. And not like, oh, it's coming from down. Oh, there's only a shock coming from down. How would you know? It's just a receiver on the surface. How could the receiver on the surface tell what direction it's coming from? The only thing it can measure is that there is a motion and how strong it is and at what time it arrives. That's it. The rest is all just model-based conclusions.
Okay, so let's pull up an example. So the Hunga Tonga explosion, I think, is a great idea that
1 second.
Tim suggested.
If you put a sensor to the left and a sensor to the right and a sensor at the bottom, and only the sensor at the bottom lights up, then you know the direction to which you receive the signal. It's from the bottom because the left and right one didn't light up. So they know how to place sensors.
I think you would do it by getting this.
Yes.
I think you do it by receiving the wave later. I don't think that you would find one doesn't get it. If you're looking at a wave that passes through rocks, you got a pretty wavy wave, right? Because one's a compression wave that's pushing radially, and then the other is a shear that can only travel through solids. And apparently, anyway. So where do we have Hunga Tonga? Let's do it with perplexity.
I'm pretty sure there
shall
is some great animations of this Tonga explosion, both of the wave across the Earth, but also like I know Tony presented some seismic data because that's something he's working with or something like that. So he was really into that when it happened. I don't remember from the top of my dome all of it, but I know it's a great example to use here in this conversation.
Sure, because I think that the point that Arwen seems to be hinged on is if the deepest we can go is the Kohler borehole, then we're just comparing PNS waves to other PNS waves.
It's so hard to say anything else.
Yeah. That we don't like what he's asking for as a standard is we need to be able to go down there to go. It says it's passing through rock and tap. Yes, it's rock. Because something I don't understand is the Kohler borehole. I thought found that rock, like what it means to be a solid, starts to not make sense after a little bit of depth. And
well, they found all kinds of weird stuff down there that they totally did not anticipate, like this weird hydrogen condensed mud and shit. Like they never even thought of that before. Okay, so they found all this weird shit down there that they did not expect. Because the P waves and S waves were not helping.
So you're saying the P waves and the S waves they don't match what we would predict, like the lower we go? It's less reliable?
Yeah, it only reaches so far until you can't really use it reliably anymore to know what's
Looking at
down
that
there.
local topography, you're right. It's
Perfect Storm, you've been
unreliable. But
talking
we're
through
not
a lot.
measuring the
Please,
depth
please
of
wait for
things.
your turn to speak. It's making it very difficult to listen to, and nobody can get the arguments, even if you have a good one.
Great feedback.
We also don't hear the beginning of your sentence because it's still in the middle of someone else's.
Every time.
Well, anyways, the
I don't think that's a well anyways thing to rejoin with. I think the thing to rejoin with is I will take that feedback and you'll watch me now behave as if I've heard you on that. That's what we're doing in here. That's the vibe we're getting going here. You ready to get on board with this perfect storm? We're getting better at debating. And if you're not going to play the game of taking the feedback, then you are going to have to step back. Because there's a lot of people in the room who might want to have a discussion. But if you're going to say, I'm going to charge in and talk over people, and I'm going to not take feedback when I get it, you're missing out. You're missing a great opportunity.
I'm not dismissing any feedback. I just wanted to say what I had to say because it's important to clarify, because Arwin seems to say that he has an argument because since PNS waves are like unreliable for depth and digging, therefore they're unreliable for measuring earthquakes. But those two things are fundamentally different. So when it comes to earthquake propagation and like measuring where they come from in geolocation stations, this has nothing to do with digging holes on a local topography. And the PNS waves aren't like trying to get, we're not like looking for how deep this is, or there's a pocket
All right,
here.
if you're not going to take the feedback, you're not going to take the feedback, because nothing I said now required you to say anything about PNS waves. What it required you to do is demonstrate you've heard what I've said about how you conduct yourself in this discussion, and to go, yeah, I'm hearing you, but I still need to say it, is showing the opposite. You haven't heard me. You haven't heard the room. It's time to step back. That's your time is now done. You can now become a listener. Other people are going to step up as interlocutors. You've kind of burnt your goodwill there, and you can try again another time.
But if I may, I mean, he says it has nothing to do
No.
with it.
It's also a little bit you, Arwen, like you're doing it too, but to a lesser degree. So we want to show that we're like, oh, the game here isn't to prove to people that the Earth is a certain shape or another or anything. The game here is to go, how do I get better at recognizing when I'm doing that? Because I'm hand on heart, I'm building Sage to help me. I don't know how to handle that, as you can see regularly. But we've got a failure to understand that now, so we're going to move on. But we can get into the meta part about it, or I'm also kind of keen for a new topic. I feel like we've done the warm Earth circle for quite a few times, a few orbits.
Yeah, I want to make a final statement then that kind of rounds it out to also rebut what he's saying. Like the one has nothing to do with the other, but it does. Because
say it again, sorry, from the start.
If you don't know what's down there, if you literally have no evidence of what's really down there, then you don't know how these waves are actually going to behave. You don't know what's happening. You don't know if they even can go through this presupposed center of Earth. You don't know any of it because you don't know what's down there. You don't know how the wave is actually responding. You only know if it's going to come back to the surface somehow. That's the only thing you can measure.
Again, bro. We've heard that. Honestly, we've heard that. We've really heard that so many times now. We get it. We're going to take it to heart. We know that your position is we don't know what happens below there, and it's all inference. We get it. That's not really a rebuttal and a final thought. That is the same thought. So who's getting it? Who follows the vibe of why we're here and who wants to lead us forward into a new, bright and shiny conversation of understanding, which could be about that conversation, but it's not going to be that conversation. It will only be the meta and discussing how do we discuss things, and it won't be talking about fucking PNS waves.
I'm available for conversation now, by the way, because I'm not working anymore.
Okay.
So I'm glad that you're still live after the 2 hours. Thank you, Eggshells. I am here ready to discuss many things.
Good,
but
okay.
I don't
curious.
have to be the topic.
I'm curious. How did the mainstream figure out that these waves actually worked?
It's a good question, though.
I missed that last word.
He said, how do the mainstream know how the waves worked?
The P waves? Are we on different
How
waves?
do they know that they are what they say they are? Because Arvin is saying that you can't go so very far down before it starts to give you odd signals, But the mainstream is still using it every single fucking day. Like, why? If it doesn't work?
Because it does work at the surface, right? Up to like a kilometer, you can have pretty accurate readings. They find ancient ruins under sand all the time this way, but it doesn't work much deeper than that. So it's very useful on the surface or slightly below it.
The composition of the rock, like basalt and all that, like the deeper you go, there's different forms of rock, which makes it harder for the propagation to go well with the tools that we have, because they're not as strong as earthquakes. We're not causing magnitude 7 earthquakes here. So I guess that's why.
Basically, P waves and S waves were also used to do that scan as to what is underneath the pyramids, right? That's that whole thing that got like pretty mainstream news attention. That was a P wave, S wave application that they did, actually threw very high up, which is pretty remarkable. But yeah, that's one of the things they can do with it. But I mean, it only goes so deep. Even the guys that used it back then say, like, yeah, it gives this readout, but after a certain distance, we don't really know for sure, but we think it's kind of like this, right? It doesn't reach that far.
So the question is that Tim's asked, which I think does lead it in a somewhat new direction, is what is the efficacy? Why do people use it, and why do they get good effects with it? Is that your question, Tim?
Yeah, kind of.
Cool. Well, because they can scan below the surface very accurately, and that way, well, find ruins underneath the dirt, underneath the sand, find a pyramid inside of a hill. They can do all these things with it. It's just not very deep.
Because I think that Tim's point is a good one, which is if you need to know something very precise, and we find that clever people are using it for stuff like, oh, I know where to make a granite mine, to mine marble or something, because of these, then yeah, I think that could come with something interesting. Say again, Rob?
I said, or they found Noah's Ark on a mountain.
Yeah, among other things, yeah. Lots of things they found with it.
What am I missing?
I mean, since they started using that, they found like that basically Earth is just riddled with these ancient megalithic structures, like everywhere. It's everywhere. They figured that out because of this technique.
Are
you
sure PNS waves? Because I don't think
they
it
don't
is.
have to stumble into it anymore. They can literally just scan an entire area and just see like, hey, there's the structures over there.
But I think PNS waves are, one is pressure and shear waves is a better way to think of it, but that's not right. But one is a compressive force, so that'll go radial, it'll pass through water. And then the other is like a ripple, a shear force. And shear force can't travel through water, through liquid. So both of those are physical, where I think what you're talking about with the what do you call them, pyramids and that, is actually GPR, ground penetrating radar, which I think sends out radar, which is a very different thing because it's a sort of frequency, right? It's not moving matter, where this is matter moving either back and forth or left and right, essentially in a direction, whereas the ground penetrating radar is, something similar to light that I don't understand. But I don't think we could say that it's got the same efficacy of PNS waves, or does it? I don't understand it that well. I can't pretend to.
Well, it's still the same type of principles. It's just another type of wave they're using for it. Basically, another application of the same style technique.
Sort of listening to echoes, I guess. Yeah, it's a similar technique. I would agree with you on that. Yeah. So what have we got here then? Let's learn ourselves some stuff about. Oh, I'm not going to have time to go through all this stuff.
Oh, by the
I
way,
don't
just
know
for
what
the
really
record,
looking for
during
on
this
this.
entire conversation,
It's a bit boring.
I've done 0 searches. This is all just on the top of my mind.
Right. Do you think it'd be better if it was backed with some like searches and observations? It'd help me. Yeah,
Well, I don't think he means he's never looked into this. I think he just means he's not looking at his reference material at the moment.
Yeah, my reference material is all in my mind. I mean, a lot of it I don't even have the sources anymore, but I mean, I've gone through like pretty meticulous technical discussions like with the FED team about it, where I literally like figure out the math formulas they use and everything. And like the information I shared is what we all concluded from it, like what you can do with P waves and S waves and what you can't.
I think there was a claim that they found the Ark.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Tell us about how they found the Ark.
I don't know if Taylor wanted to get in. I think she's happy about this argument as well.
Yeah, it's a good new one.
They think they found the Ark because they're not allowed to dig it up.
Yeah. Are you talking about Ron Wyatt?
No,
Yeah.
there's some Italian team that did some scans of some mountains and came up with some weird configurations under the ground, but they're not allowed to dig it up because it's in Turkey. And the Turkish government won't allow them to excavate the site.
Sounds a lot like the Ron Wyatt claim.
I thought it was
So-
basically on the
I thought it
surface
was an
on top of a
Italian
mountain.
team. I thought
So
it was
there's
an
this-
Italian team.
There's this guy who claimed to have found some like drag stones, and then on or around Mount Arafat, Ararat, sorry. They found this thing that he says is the Ark. I think that's the same claim that we're speaking about. I think so.
Yeah, that's the one I know of where, yeah, Ron Wyatt goes up there and he's like a known, he's found like 45 super legit biblical artifacts that he's confirmed are definitely the thing.
Well,
It's in Turkey,
I
and
seem to recall
the Turks
an
don't
Italian
like excavation.
scientist, but I'll get the names when I get home. I'm driving right now. I can't look up the names, but there is another team of people that were Italians. That doesn't sound like Ron Wyatt, but it could be the same place. I'm not sure.
Which should be on Mount Ararat because it's named in the Bible. So it can't be too far from Anatolia, Turkey kind of deal. Pretty sure.
That's the thing. In the Bible, though, Mount Ararat is not a singular mountain.
Right, okay. But it's still in
Ararat
Turkey,
is
right?
a
Is where
range
Mount
of
Ararat is?
Yeah, I understand that, but at the time of Noah's Ark, there were more than one mountain in that area.
Just a request, if you can fix your microphone. I know you have two different settings sometimes. It is a bit scratchy.
Bad.
It's a bit scratchy, Rob.
Okay, so I can't do anything right now. I'm driving. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's hard enough to just hit the mute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm trying to Google Italian team claims to have found Ark, but it said Italian team claims to have found the thing that Arwen was talking about, which was the structures, what it suggested as the result is like, no, an Italian team used GPR to find the structures under the pyramids. Wow, that took me 7 times.
Yes.
Get your head
They
together,
also
Harry. Maybe I
found
need a
another
coffee and a wee.
sphinx, by the way, recently at Giza. They found another sphinx too. That's recently.
Oh yeah, I did hear something about that. They reckon they'd found another whole tomb with a. Did they? Was somebody in it? Oh no, Sphinx is sorry, the big carved head. Oh, sorry.
I heard they found a second Sphinx, like right beside that one.
So we want to try and solve this arc thing and then wrap up rather than. Or is there something to solve here? It sounds like we might just be riffing on different 4 topic changes so quickly.
To underground, P waves and S waves could be tied to them, maybe.
I mean, I think it'd be related. Certainly the claimed Mount Ararat boat looks like seismic action that just pushes like when you sort of fold a bit of paper by just squishing it towards itself. It does buckle in this slightly boat-shaped, slightly another an anatomical shape that we don't need to get into. Why don't we wrap and just have a final thoughts about the discussion and then take either the arc or seismic wave discussion down to the main wide stream.
Cool.
I thought it was great. It's actually been the most controlled type of debate that I've ever had concerning a flat Earth related subject. I mean, we could actually all make out what we were talking about, and that's good.
Clip that.
I enjoyed my time.
I think that's some good feedback for you there, Eggshells.
Yeah,
your bot is doing the Lord's work, maybe.
Yeah, I think she's finally getting close. Yeah, that's great feedback. Thanks for that, Owen. That means a lot. Sorry, what were you saying, Rob?
Thank you. That's all I was saying. You guys kept me thoroughly entertained while I was working, and I got to chime in at the end. Thank you.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining in as well. And to Perfect Storm still here? Yeah, Perfect Storm still here. To all the people who joined in this week, it's been good fun. We're going to continue going down in the wide stream, but we'll wrap up the show part now. I'm going to still take my 0 viewers down with us. How did Sage go? How did I go? How did the show go? What do you want to see next time? Feedback or final thoughts, or tell us a joke, or what's on your mind, or something to wrap us up.
Go on, Riggs.
I think Sage is kind of a smart ass. I mean, I said like, hey, I wasn't interrupting him, but yeah, technically I did interrupt him like one time, and then after that kind of stopped, but still, had to mention that I definitely interrupted him. Thanks, Sage, smart ass.
I'm sorry, I read that the other way around. I have to go back and read the transcript.
You did interrupt him once. Gold star for stopping.
Oh, that's nice. That's a great one. Did interrupt him once. Gold star for stopping. Fun. Yeah, it was interesting because when it first happened, I thought she was actually talking about it the other way around. She was talking about Perfect Storm having a habit of just sort of chiming in a little quick. Oh my God, look it, it's working. It's working. Could I show you? This is my final thought. This is exactly what I wanted. So
Go ahead and
notice
brag.
here, we've had
You've been
these
working hard on it.
really big, chunky claims, and this is all joined up, right? Pong, 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 pong. So the idea I was trying to get that should hopefully just start feeling like it's a connected discussion is while we're having this connected discussion about PNS waves, it's like chong, 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 and there's only a few little stragglers out here where we get into some meta about other stuff, right? But then as we start wrapping up the show and we go like switching topic, all the notes are tiny and disconnected. That's what I've been trying to build for ages. Topics changing. Anyway, That's fun to see. I'm glad that it's starting to turn a corner. I'm ready. Let's do this, Rainey.
Yeah, it looks a lot of. It's come a long way. It's just like tonight. I think there's a lot of good debates. It was like Arwen said, very civil. Really good back and forths. I kind of like more debates when you don't present or are forced to present papers and things like that, especially when the two people that are going back and forth aren't arguing the claims.
Well, so yeah, I agree with you generally, but I had to come around to what Taylor's interjection was asking for there, because then we did stay stuck on it. And I think it did actually, it was sort of prescient ahead of time that it did, to me, become relevant to say, well, if this matches ours but doesn't match yours, we've got to see what matching looks like, because Arwen's case became waves arrive from a direction with a magnitude, and then you do guesswork after that. And it became, I think, valid to do it. But I think I agree overall, but I'm going to put that in with, I'm building out this schema that Sage has about how she judges things. And what I think will go into this schema is a lot of thought about when to and when to not require evidence, that can be, but that's essentially the idea is here, it's owed. Yeah. It's an interesting open question for me about when does an evidence debt need to be paid?
I think you kind of said it, when there's a therefore that's made. I think once the therefore is made, you could say, for you to get to the therefore, I need to have evidence of this prior claim.
Oh, Eggs, I forgot to tell you. You ever try to use synthetic data to train?
I'll sometimes get it to write its own debates, do you mean? And then just pump through its own made up debate so we can see what a sort of diversion looks like versus a valid response.
Yeah, like a massive amount of synthetic debates, and then just run your test through there rapidly.
Yeah. So I did a bunch last night. I left it testing all last night. And I'm really impressed with what it does today, where almost every single time there was a big note, I was like, that is a good point, and it is their main point, which is always a bit of a balance, because before I was having it say, the training was always just me prompting it, and I would say, well, you pick their best point. And sometimes somebody be arguing really poorly, but somewhere in the overall scheme of what they're arguing, there is a valid argument, so they pretend that was the kind of main point. So it had to be a balance between this big note needs to be a steel man of what they're saying, but they do actually need to be saying it. And if what they're saying is shit, it should look and read poorly and then shrink down and be like this kind of crap that I've been saying. P&S waves are better thought of as pressure and shear waves. One compresses the other ripple. Okay, I don't think that's a terrible point. But anyway. Yeah. So what was your point on that? I just started talking about what Sage does.
No, I was just bringing it up because it might be a way to speed up the progress of the testing if you have a bunch of these synthetic debates. Because I know the people training LLMs, they use synthetic training data. So they'll make a little program to generate, reliable training data that's going to work for whatever they're trying to train. And, they just let it run overnight. It'll generate massive amounts of training data, and then they just run tests on that so they can rapidly progress. They don't have to sit around and wait for people to debate,
Yeah. Well, what I do with mine is for some of these, like there's a rigor one here where I'll sometimes go, oh, this is a really good example of blah, of two people engaging really well, or it being chaotic or something like that. So I haven't been faking as much as using real stuff, because I guess it just haven't prompted it well enough. But when I get it to fake a conversation, it always makes this really reasonable where somebody goes, well, there are, many ways we could gain a moral code without blah, blah, blah. And then the other person says something quite logical. And I'm more like, well, I want to see what it looks like when we've got lots of transcription errors and people are hot micing and people are totally missing the point.
Yeah, you gotta
in a way that a LLM can't even fathom,
Oh, well, it could fathom. You just gotta kind of tell it. I mean, if you already know that's kind of what it's missing, just tell it to add some of that, you know, realistic noise, like it's actually in a real server.
Yeah, it's a very good idea. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining up. I'm really touched that you have, and I know Riggs, you appreciate it as well. And I appreciate you, Riggs, for setting up the space and helping get people in here and giving, and also giving me so much time to get Sage running.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to see it. Well, you know, the real magic. I mean, I love Sage and all, but the real magic is that you're interacting with it and you're excited about it, and you really want to iron out the points. So that's cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks all. Let's wrap it up, shall we, Riggs? Thank you all.
All right.
See you again next week.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll go down to the wide stream.